Hey guys, how are you all? Welcome to Let's Start Story on What If Naruto Sign Marriage Contract with Ruby and Yang. So do 4 blue hearts comment. Be sure to subscribe to our channel and like this video, and please share with your friends and watch till end. Also check out Patreon, for I have upload Naruto X Rias and Akano uncensored spicy version, link in description.
Today was a horrible day. She did not understand what was happening around her.
Why was everyone so sad? Did something bad happen? What was her sister so angry about? Why was her dad so quiet? Her uncle so frustrated? Why were there so many people here? Dressed so nice? Why did she have to put on a dress? Was it a special occasion?
Was mom coming home? Then why was everyone crying and upset? She didn't get what was happening, she just wanted to know.
Gently reaching to her father, she softly tugged his sleeve to get his attention. And sorrowful blue eyes peered into perplexed silver ones. Dad, what's wrong? Why is everyone so sad? When is mom coming home? Shuddering at her words, tears spilled down her father's face. Try as he might, the words could come. Ruby. Ruby. Her uncle's voice resonated sullenly behind her, his arm drawing her softly from her father and drew her eyes into his. This is going to be hard to hear, honey. I wish I could tell you summer was coming home.
She is gone, Ruby. She's not going to keep her promise. Ruby's eyes shimmered and widened as she looked into her uncle's eyes, and she knew from that look. No, her mom wasn't coming home. What did that mean? Her mom was so strong that she couldn't.
Could she? They missed it over, and her throat burned, as her uncle wrapped his strong arms around her and embraced her. Her eyes subtly shone, a dazzling glow filled within, and a hollow scream filled the room as Ruby let her heart weep.
No. And a silver light swept the room, her eyes illuminated with an unnatural glow. Nani. Who is crying? Konoha, Naruto, age 5, today was supposed to be a great day.
Now it wasn't feeling so much like it. He finally moved out of that stupid orphanage, away from that mean lady and the other kids. He now had his own place, even if it didn't feel quite right. Like something was missing. Got a daily stipend or whatever that was. He was getting Ryo from the old man, and that was cool. He even got his own plant. He had something to take care of that was his own. That was awesome. He had no idea how to take care of it, but that was beside the point. It was his, and that is what mattered. But now, he was lost and confused. Did not understand anything he was supposed to do. He knew a little about how to cook and clean from the orphanage, but that was about it. He could clean something simple, and the same with making something simple if it was with a microwave, but
he didn't understand any of the machines here, what they did or how he was supposed to use any of them. So he went out to spend a little of the Ryo the old man gave him, who told him to spend it wisely as he would need it for groceries. What were groceries? What did that mean? What were those? They were obviously something important he was supposed to get, but he didn't understand, and after walking through the village, he was upset and didn't care.
Everyone was so mean to him. Everyone he talked to would either glare at him, barely interact with him, or straight up ignore him. Some were flat out rude and called him names behind his back. He didn't understand them or knew what the words meant, but he knew they were being ugly. And when he went to the shop to figure out what to buy, the shopkeeper was so rude to him. Didn't explain things at all. He asked what groceries were, and everything, and the man rolled his eyes at him. He barely knew how to count and didn't even know how much the Ryo he was given was worth, so he struggled to figure out what he could buy. And the shopkeeper kept yelling at him for it. By the time he had a few things he could buy with what he had left with a few bags, and now he didn't know what to do with any of it.
Sitting back in his house before his refrigerator, Naruto had tears soaking his cheeks. Rubbing his eyes while trying to get over what had happened, he put the only thing of milk he bought as he looked at the rest of what he bought. How did he even make this stuff? What was ramen anyways? The strange thing was, as he wiped away the tears, there was this burning, painful sensation he felt searing through his right hand. He winced and bit his tongue, never experiencing pain like this before. It was. What was that? There was a sound. It was peculiar and something he knew. His heart clenched as it felt like something calling him, as it felt like he did just seconds before. It was the sound of crying. And not only that, it was a girl crying. And her shriek echoed and forced him to cover his ears.
Nani, who was crying? Naruto looked around, bewildered, with his heart racing as he heard the girl's cries echoing all around him but could locate her. Are you hurt? Where are you? What's wrong? Looking up and down his new place, Naruto scoured high and low as the cries filled his ears. But he could not locate them. It was a little girl crying. He was sure of it.
Girl, are you here? Wasn't coming from his bedroom or outside on his little lookout. Would have spotted her on that. In here, Definitely wasn't in the bathroom. No place to hide in there. What about this weird place? Not in the room with the weird machines that he didn't know what did but spun around and made water and got hot, wasn't hiding in those. Come on. Where are you? She wasn't in the entryway, and that left the kitchen, where he started, and she wasn't there.
Where was this girl, and why was she so upset? It sounded like something terrible had just happened to her. Okay, this isn't funny. Where are you? Naruto shouted, desperately searching for the source of the crying as he could not find it but knew she was there. Look, I'm not scary. I promise, I won't hurt you. I'm here to help. Just let me help you. I'm having a bad day too.
Hello? The girl spoke back. She could hear him. Yes, okay, something was happening. Now if he could talk to her, he could help.
Hey, where are you? I've been hearing you cry for some time and looking for you. Are you okay? Naruto called out in concern, still looking for the sniffling girl.
I'm sorry, the girl responded sulkily. I am at home.
Nani, what? But that's where I am. Naruto shouted, alarmed at what he heard. Look, how can that be? You're home, I'm home. Something doesn't seem right. Why can I hear you cry?
I don't know, I hear you too. The girl sniffled, and Naruto could feel she was holding back tears and was beginning to become scared. And while he was scared, he heard a girl crying somehow. He didn't want to make her cry anymore.
So despite his overwhelming panic, he forced a smile as he tried to comfort the girl while still searching for her. Hey, my name is Naruto. Uzumaki Naruto. What's yours? Ruby. Ruby Rose. Nice to meet you, Ruby. Naruto beamed, trying to pass his positive energy over to the girl even though he could see her but clearly could hear her no matter what room he was in. I heard you crying. What's the matter? The girl quieted, and he could hear her sobs clearly, her breath hitching as she struggled through her sobbing. Naruto felt his heart clench. He knew this kind of crying. Something bad had happened, and he could feel it.
I miss my mom. Ruby's voice choked through her sobs, unable to hold back her tears. I want her to come home. I hate those stupid Grimm. Hate them.
His cerulean eyes deepened, a golden glow sparking within as Naruto stopped his search for the little girl. Tucking his head, he bit his lip, closed his eyes, and wiped the tears that were trying to force them in his eyes. He had to stay strong. Couldn't cry now. Could do that later. He knew that feeling well. How often he thought the same thoughts when he was in the orphanage. That his mother and father would come back for him, if they were even alive, and take him home. He was sure many kids in the orphanage had the same thoughts, but it was doubly true for him. Everyone there was so mean. She's gone, huh? Naruto found himself in his bedroom, sliding down and slumping against his bed, bringing his knees up to his chest and wrapping his arm around them. You know, I miss my mom. Dad too. They never came home.
Ruby's breath deepened, and her sobs stiffened. She still struggled to catch her breath, finding it difficult. But her words came. Why your mom and dad?
Yeah, Naruto numbly nodded, gazing emptily at the vacant apartment, finally understanding what didn't feel right about this place before. Never got to see them. Old man tells me they died when the nine-tailed fox attacked the village, and now I am all alone. In this place. Ruby sobbed once more. This time her tears were not just for her. She was shedding tears for him as Naruto leaned against his bed. And hearing that, he reached out and called for her. Hey, it's okay. It's sad, but I know they're still with me. They gave everything to protect me and the village from that stupid fox. They wouldn't have done it if they didn't love me.
And that makes me happy to know. Naruto shed a single tear as a sorrowful smile curled on his lips.
A few sniffles kept it from being a complete silence, letting Naruto know the girl was still there. He didn't know where she was or why he could hear her. But she was there, and he had been before too. But somehow, now that he was talking to her,
this place didn't feel so empty. He felt like he had a friend to talk to, even if she was terribly sad at the moment. Finally, he could hear her voice trying to break through her sadness again, and his eyes lifted. Mom's still with me. Yeah, she is. She always will be. Because she loved you. Naruto smiled and closed his eyes, comforting the girl. Thank you, Ruby's voice whispered before he could no longer hear her voice, and his attention snapped to his door, hearing it burst open. Naruto. The old man's voice. Why was he here? Didn't he say he was going back to the office?
Are you okay? The old man swept into his bedroom, stopping at the entry as his eyes shimmered upon his gaze locked onto the boy leaning against his bed. By the sages, Naruto.
What is it, old man? Naruto blinked, finding his action odd as he stared straight at him as if observing something strange. This prompted Naruto to look at himself. Old man. What is this? What's going on? Naruto panicked at the sight of his body, not understanding what was happening around him. As golden sparkles slowly faded from around him, a light golden pulse faded from around him. And the imprint of a sun on his right hand fading from existence. "Thank you," rolled off Ruby's lips, a sullen smile on her lips as she looked up at a picture of her mother through misty eyes. "Naruto, Ruby." She heard her uncle's voice as the door to her room opened. "Hey, little Rose. I know things aren't going, Ruby. Are you okay?"
Yes. Ruby turned her attention to her uncle, sitting on her bed, her eyes emblazoned with silver wings glowing that were dissipating and fading from existence. "I feel okay now, talking to my friend, feel a little better."
"Don't hear him anymore," Ruby sulked, dipping her head down, hoping he would respond like he had been before. "He must be gone now." "Ruby," she heard her uncle's voice waver before she felt his hand rest gently on her back. "Hey, kid, let's go get something to eat. Everyone has left now. Your sister is worried about you." Nodding, Ruby weakly slid off the bed, needing help keeping her balance, taking her uncle's hand as he led her out of the room. What she didn't see was his frown and squinted eyes as he was puzzled about what was occurring with his niece. Naruto wasn't sure what to make of the start of this day. He had just woken up and was trying to figure out how to start his day. It was the old Hokage again at his door, but this time, he wasn't alone. At his side was this beautiful woman with hip-length, faded black hair and striking crimson eyes. And as she stared curiously at her, he somehow didn't notice a slight nod the two shared after letting them inside his apartment. Instead, he continued to stare before finally turning to the Hokage with his head tilted. "Who's this, old man?" The woman bit back a smug smirk and forced a look of impassiveness.
The Hokage grumbled under his breath, muttering something Naruto could not hear. Instead, the Hokage held out his hand to introduce the woman. "I apologize for yesterday, Naruto. It came to my realization that when I placed you here, I failed you. You still aren't entirely ready to be on your own yet and still have many things to learn, so I hired someone for a few hours in the morning to help and teach you how to take care of your place." "About time," the woman harshly murmured under her voice, uncaring of the cold, intimidating stare she earned from the Hokage for her words.
"Oh," Naruto's shoulders shrunk, and he tucked his head down, looking away vacantly. "Another matron, huh?"
The woman frowned and then cast a deeply dissatisfied glance at the Hokage. Then displaying a caring smile, she approached and knelt before Naruto, placing a soft hand on his shoulder and bringing his cerulean eyes into her onyx ones. "I will be nothing of the sort, dear. In fact, I have a son your age that I would like you to meet. I think the two of you could be the best of friends if given the chance." "Really?" Naruto's face brightened immediately, his eyes shining upon hearing those words, excited to have a chance to make a friend. "Absolutely. He needs to get out and make a few friends." The woman closed her eyes and returned the smile, sharing the enthusiasm. "He's a sullen little boy that tries too hard to be like his big brother and father. I think having a friend would be the best thing for him and you, don't you say?"
"Yeah." Naruto eagerly nodded, ready to make himself a new friend. "Can we go now?"
The woman chuckled, her gaze meeting the Hokage's almost defiantly before gleaming at Naruto. "In a bit, child. We have many things I have to help you with. This place is a mess, and I know where to teach you to take care of your place." "I will leave you to it then," the Hokage sighed, understanding the look but knew Naruto was in safe hands as he had explicitly chosen her for the job. "Yes, that will be fine." She closed her eyes, keeping her smile bright as she tried to match Naruto's energy level. "Oh, where are my manners? I do believe I forgot to introduce myself.
I am Uchiha Makoto. It's a pleasure to meet you, Naruto." It was a long night. She couldn't sleep. Her sister restlessly shifted and rolled in her bed next to hers.
Yang was having a hard time too. Lying in bed, Ruby gazed at the window aimlessly. Her eyes were drawn to the shattered moon, looking upon it in awe. Wondering what could have caused it. She was always curious. It was why she loved stories. And fairy tales. They were so magical, so amazing to listen to.
They always calmed her down, brought her a certain feeling within.
Why she loved listening to stories before going to bed, when her mom or dad read to them.
And now Dad was sitting alone in his room, and Mom was. A single tear was shed from her eyes and down onto the sheets below.
She missed her mom and wished she was here now. Maybe Dad would be okay then. Everything would be better.
They were alone today. It was just the two of them.
Uncle Qrow had left last night having something he needed to take care of. And her dad was in his room. Just sitting there. He had hardly moved. Even when she tugged at him, he didn't respond. It was like he wasn't there. Her stomach rumbled, and she clenched her stomach. She was so hungry. They hadn't eaten anything today. Yang had tried, but she couldn't figure it out. She didn't know how to operate the oven, and instead, she burnt the pan and food inside it.
They were out of cereal, and their uncle said he would bring some groceries back tomorrow when he left. He hadn't come back.
Yang went to bed after that incident in frustration, crying and screaming in frustration. Not that she could blame her sister. She didn't know what she was doing. Her mom and dad had always done the cooking. They barely even had to make their own bowls of cereal.
And they were always out fighting the Grimm too. It was amazing, just what they were capable of doing, but now. More tears fell to the sheets and pillow. Ruby didn't know what to do. She was hungry and afraid.
What was going to happen? Where did her uncle go? Was he going to go missing too? She didn't want that. She just wanted someone to be here with her. Help her.
Talk to her. Ruby? Silver eyes opened wide at hearing that voice. It was her friend. She heard his voice again. Naruto. It had been quite a long day, but he had learned a lot, and he might have made a friend. He wasn't so sure about that, but Sasuke was. Well, he was. Naruto didn't know how to put the kid. He wasn't nice, but he wasn't mean, so that was good. He was just kind of there. So he'd take that. His mother was really lovely, though. Even if she worked him hard when she was teaching him.
But he understood it. He got what she was talking about, and it made sense. And she wasn't being rude about it. She took her time and explained everything.
Even how to take care of his plant. He now knew how to do that. That was important. Sighing contentedly as he laid back in his bed, gazing out the window, Naruto felt this day was a success compared to the last, and most importantly. This place didn't seem so empty. It felt, no, it was empty again.
He frowned and closed his eyes. That was just a feeling he would have to get used to. After leaving the orphanage, whether he liked everyone or not, it felt like other people were there. Keeping an eye on him. Making sure he was okay. Even if it wasn't the same, he liked to imagine it was a similar feeling to what he liked to believe having a family was like. And now he didn't even have that. I wonder what my parents were like, Naruto absently asked himself, opening his eyes and gazing out the window and toward the Hokage monument and at one head in particular, smiling softly. I hope they were brave just like him. He was awesome. The stories I heard about him, man.
Naruto stopped as he could hear something. It was soft at first, almost inaudible, but he was aware of it. He could feel it. It felt very sad. Almost as if it was someone crying. His eyes widened as he had a realization. Ruby. He called out gently, having an idea of who it was, and reached out for her. And he was proven correct as her voice sounded alarmed as she called back, alarmed herself. Naruto, I can hear you again. Same. Are you okay? Naruto sat up, frowning as he heard her voice. No. Ruby choked back her tears and sobbed softly. So hungry, Dad hasn't moved all day, no cereal, sister couldn't cook.
You haven't eaten. Naruto's face showed alarm before he bit back a snarl. Okay, let's see. I just learned how to cook a little today. Do you have any noodles? I think I can help you through it if you listen to me. It was a moment before Ruby responded as if she was moving, but he heard her response as if she was moving along, huffing for breath. Okay, I will try. Oven is a bit big for me. Yeah, it's a bit of a pain for me too. Naruto nodded in agreement, thinking of the instructions Makoto was giving him today to help Ruby through her trouble. Once you are in the kitchen, let me know. Grab a chair and put it in front of the oven to help you reach.
Here, came a few moments later as Ruby, her voice soft and weak but still present. Have lots of noodles. Don't know what to grab. What this? Ramen.
Yes, that, Naruto called out excitedly, nodding furiously. That is easy to make. Pack or cup?
Pack. Do you know where the pots are kept? Yang burned one.
Who? Never mind. Naruto started before realizing she said she had a sister, and that was who probably did that when she told her sister couldn't cook. Okay, that complicates things. Ah, shoot, I wish I was there. Makoto showed me how to clean a burned pan today. That's really hard.
Oh, Ruby's voice sullenly expressed, seemingly depressed and ready to sob again. Then her following words changed everything. I wish you were here too.
Silver light began to envelop Naruto, coating and covering his very being. His eyes widened as he jumped up in horror, not sure what was happening as again he noted the light golden aura was mixed with it, unsure what was happening. But now, his attention was drawn to his lookout door as an unfamiliar man with gravity-defying silver hair and a porcelain mask burst through, looking upon the scene as his bedroom was filled with a silver light.
And Uzumaki Naruto vanished. Oomph! Naruto slammed face first into a hard floor. Then he heard a young girl scream and tumble before a thud landed on top of him. He groaned as this could not have gone any worse. Just what happened? Where was he? This place wasn't familiar. He didn't recognize it. There was a chair in front of an oven, and now something heavy was on top of him.
A chair in front of an oven. Wait, did that mean Ruby? Naruto attempted to look behind him, and cerulean eyes glanced into silver eyes for the first time. Naruto, how am I here? Naruto and Ruby both jumped and looked at each other in alarm, not understanding the circumstances of what had just happened. The last thing I remember was that I was in my room and that I was glowing, and then silver light filled the room. Silver light. Ruby tilted her eyes, looking confused. Yang said silver light filled the room when I was sad hearing Mom was gone yesterday.
Naruto's eyes snapped toward Ruby, his eyes widening. She was the cause of this. But how? She was a little girl. Did she have some sort of mystical powers like in those movies?
That was cool and all, but how was he going to get back home? Where was he in the first place? Wait, you're hungry. Naruto remembered the conversation they were having and jumped into action, turning to the kitchen they were in and saw the problem as he moved the chair to the sink and saw the pan. Okay, this is gonna be a chore. That pan is burnt, Ruby.
Yes. Ruby gazed at Naruto curiously, unsure how to respond to her friend suddenly showing up in her house but following his every movement.
Do you know where your cleaning stuff is? Under the sink. Duh, that makes sense. Naruto lowered his head in shame as Makoto showed him that this morning and he felt dumb for even asking. So searching for the materials he had used for the pan, he grinned and found something similar, even if it was in different packaging. It looked the same, so he was going to use it. Found it. Grab a chair, Ruby. I'll teach ya.
Okay. Ruby hopped over and pulled a chair to learn how to clean the pan, seemingly more chipper than before.
Seeing the young girl smile brightened Naruto's heart as he began to apply what he needed and focused on the task at hand, grinning as he did. Alright, this is what you need to do. First, you need to grab this stuff, apply and then put a little muscle into it while applying some hot water. Okay, it took a few minutes of scrubbing, more than he would have liked, but the pot was cleaned, and he sighed in relief as Ruby looked on in awe. It's a little harder to do, but the next time it needs to be done you'll know what to grab and how to do it. Now we need to get some water, put the noodles in, and warm it up for a few minutes. That it? Ruby tilted her head curiously, eyes wide as Naruto filled the pot with some water now that it was clean.
Yes, it is. Naruto grinned, happy to show off a new skill he had learned, as he closed his eyes. Then you add the flavor packet and mix it in, and it's all done. It's just a waiting game and ensuring you don't overcook it.
As Ruby looked at Naruto in awe, he kept grinning as he moved the chair over the oven and motioned for join him. Gesturing to the dials, showing her exactly what he was doing and having her carefully observe, and pointing out what he was doing, he had set everything up, and the pot was set to boil. Hand me the ramen, and we'll just put that in there so it can boil.
Doing as he asked, Ruby handed the package over to Naruto and opened it, removed the seasoning packet, and put the noodles in the package. Oh, need a spoon to stir it. Make sure nothing sticks to the bottom. Got it. Ruby stepped down from the chair, headed to a drawer, and grabbed a spoon before returning with it. Here.
Thank you very much, Naruto replied, helping Ruby back up on her chair so he could continue to show her what to do. Now, it's just about stirring and waiting. It takes a few minutes, but once the water is good and bubbling, it is done. And you'll have some food ready to go.
Yay, Ruby clapped, a dazzling smile expressed on her features that made Naruto's heart melt upon seeing it. The girl was just too cute, and hearing she was so sad earlier was devastating, that her mother was. And that something was wrong with her dad? What was happening there?
Oh, he needed to keep her mind off that stuff. Heck, he had difficulty keeping his mind off things about moving into his apartment alone. And all the villagers glaring at him.
Hey, Ruby, want to hear an awesome story? Naruto grinned as he came up with something to fill the void while they waited for the ramen to cook. Promise it will be a good one. A story? Ruby's eyes lit up with excitement, like a fairy tale.
Sort of. Naruto laughed at the girl's enthusiasm and nodded. It is about a man that helped save my village in its most dire time. A man that I want to grow up to become just like. The strongest person that ever was. The fourth Hokage, the hero that saved Konoha from the nine-tailed fox demon. And he came in riding his faithful companion, the powerful Toad Summon. Oh, I forgot his name. That story. Ruby softly smiled as she watched Naruto pull the pot off the burner as she turned it off as he instructed. Is so sad, but heroic. Naruto's eyes shimmered as he opened the seasoning and mixed it in. That he willingly put everything on the line to protect all he held dear to him. Even if it cost him his life, that is what it means to be a hero. A sacrifice for the greater good.
Ruby's head lowered, tears welling in her eyes as she looked down and away. Mom. Naruto's head snapped to Ruby, hearing her and seeing her tears. Ruby, I'm sorry, I didn't mean. She did the same. A sad smile crept on her face as she brought her hand to her chest, and tears rolled down her cheeks. She fought the Grimm to protect everyone.
Naruto froze as he looked at the little girl before him. No wonder the story resonated so much with Ruby. He just told her a story that reminded her of her mother. But instead of bringing her sadness, it brought her some joy, some comfort in her heart. Reaching out, he placed a hand on her shoulder, and he forced a smile. Then she's a hero too. A heck of one in my book. Naruto gasped and nearly fell off the chair as he was forcibly pulled into an embrace, but instead, he chuckled and accepted it, returning it as Ruby wept in his arms. At least this time, he found her and could help her. Even if he didn't know how to get back home himself. Ruby and Naruto's eyes were snapped forward to the edge of the kitchen as a man with black hair looked upon them with wide eyes, unsure of what he was seeing, holding a few bags of groceries. And in a dazzling flash of silver light, Naruto disappeared from the kitchen, leaving Ruby extremely confused about where her friend had gone. Again, Naruto groaned as he smashed into the floor, groaning in pain as this was a very uncomfortable sensation. Naruto. A familiar voice called his name, and his eyes widened. He knew that voice. It was the old man's. He was home, back in Konoha. What happened? Looking up, he saw he was in his bedroom again, seeing the old man and the silver-haired man that busted into his room when he had disappeared when he first left. And there were so many other people here too. Unsure of what was happening, Naruto said the only thing that came to mind. I was helping my friend. She was in pain because her mom died. Naruto was getting tired. It had already been a long night, and it was getting much longer. He wanted to go home already, even if it was empty and alone. He was so tired he felt he could fall straight to bed when he lay on the mattress. But instead, he was here in the office with the old man, being asked questions about what happened occasionally, being observed. Kept an eye on. Usually, he would appreciate that as it meant someone was there for him, but this was not the same. No, they were looking for something. Looking for an answer to what was happening, and while he wanted to know too. It was making him uncomfortable how everyone was staring at him. He wanted them to stop. To believe him when he said he was helping his friend. There is no trace, Hokage-sama. Makoto's voice sounded upset, and he had to wonder if he was the reason she was upset. Even if her eyes were gazing fiercely upon the Hokage with a gritted annoyance that he did not see. Everything is within the norm, except his chakra is now activated, and there is a significant amount. Far more than a child should have. A formal man dressed in an elegant kimono disapprovingly crossed his arms across his chest in a dignified manner, his white eyes gazing upon the Hokage. Most adults can spend their lives and not have the amount of chakra he possesses. So we're left with the story he's been telling and higher than expected chakra reserves? A man with long, light blonde hair scowled as he scratched his chin. Well, I could confirm the story, but there is an imminent risk for me involved. Coward. Makoto spat, her eyes shifting to his direction nastily. Are you seriously going to make me do the hard work? Vilify me? It's called self-preservation, thank you very much. The blonde man retorted, genuinely upset at the insult, and flatly glared back at the woman. No one is vilifying you, Makoto. A man with pineapple hair shook his head. We can rule the story out as being factual. Naruto is 5 and, unlike a certain other child, was not raised in such a manner and is prone to tell exuberant stories. Now kernels of truth still may lie within. Hey, Naruto boisterously puffed out his chest at the lanky pineapple-haired man, understanding enough of the conversation to glare at him. I was helping my friend Ruby. I believe you, Naruto. Makoto softly responded as she knelt before Naruto, smiling lightly as she stared directly into his eyes, drawing his attention to her crimson eyes with the odd swirling. Something felt off. The sensation was weird, and he wasn't sure what it was. It felt like something was tickling him. But from within, and in his head, it was a bizarre feeling. But as soon as it came, it went away as a soothing feeling coursed through him, slowly drifting along his right arm until he felt his body relax. And he simply tilted his head and smiled at Makoto. Why are your eyes swirling like that? That's really cool. Makoto snapped backward, her eyes widening, seeing the chakra flow through his body briefly, and froze. Where it originated from. The Hokage said there was a strange marking on it, but that symbol, it couldn't be, that would mean that they were. Her face schooled impassively, her eyes turning to the Hokage, sneering at him before she gazed over at the blonde. If you want answers, you will have to get them yourself. I am calling this a day to search for answers to what I just saw. It is the likely reason for what has happened these past 2 days, I would have you know, but I cannot speak of it here.
Naruto blinked. Just from looking at him with her strange eyes. Makoto now knew what had happened. That was awesome. He wanted to know how those eyes worked. Why was she walking out of the office? Why was the old man so upset?
Makoto, the old Hokage sternly warned her as she neared the exit, a deathly tone that Naruto had never heard in his voice before and made him shiver.
Oh, the old man was mad. What did she do to earn that voice? And why was she being so?
I am sorry, Hokage-sama. Makoto held out her arms as she rolled her shoulders, gazing back with mild defiance. I would like to tell you, but I am, by your words, not to express anything related to that around him, so I cannot. It would be a breach of my word.
What's express? Naruto asked, immediately recognizing something was happening but didn't quite understand the word, alarming the others in the room that he might be catching on. Wait, hold on.
Inu, take Naruto home. Hiruzen called for the service of an unseen man, and suddenly the man with gravity-defying silver hair and a porcelain mask simply appeared next to Naruto, making the boy jump. It is well past his bedtime, and I fear he may be overstimulated already. It will make tomorrow quite a difficult time, I am sure.
Nani? Where did you come from? Naruto shouted and tried to kick the intruder known as Inu. And when the kick hit the man in the shin and did absolutely nothing, a full moment passed as Naruto stared at the scene in shock before a large bead of sweat fell on the back of his head, and he looked up at the man's masked face. How did you not feel that? What are you? Really good. The silver man responded with a quip, and Naruto swore there was a smile on his face beneath that damn mask he was hiding his face behind before offering his hand. Now, come along. I'll take you home. Hokage-sama has things to discuss with everyone in the room.
Staring at the man behind the mask, Naruto scowled, crossed his arms, and glared at him. He wanted to know what was going in here now. Even as tired as he was, it sounded like they knew what was happening, and he wanted to know. But if he could learn how to do what this guy just did, that would be awesome too. So he took the offer by nodding, deciding to follow the man in a mask in a huffed manner. Only if you can tell me how you did that. I want to know so I can be strong, just like the fourth. Ma, you say something? The man put his finger in his ear and wiggled it around. Sorry, had to clean my ear out. Naruto tripped, going out the door, his eyes glancing furiously at the masked man with gravity-defying hair. Gaw. Were you listening to me at all? Oh, he knew the man was smiling behind the mask. He could hear it in his amused tone as he responded, which infuriated him. Nope. Ruby, YMFs. Ruby snapped her head up from her bowl, face full of ramen noodles, some staining her cheeks as she gazed at her uncle curiously. Go ahead and finish your bowl, honey. Her uncle flinched before reaching over and grabbing a napkin to help clean up his niece. I'll ask you when you are done. Umki. Ruby dove back into her bowl, devouring the noodles made for her, her uncle watching on fearfully at the act unfolding before him. Did I eat like this when I was that young? He questioned before grimacing and tilting his head. There might have been a time or two where we didn't, young. Oh. Ruby understood why her uncle looked panicked and slid out of her chair, silver eyes excitedly glimmering. Gotta tell her my new friend helped me make ramen for us. About that. Her uncle Qrow put his hand on her shoulder, stopping her from reaching the stairs and having her silver eyes look up into his. Let's not tell her about that. Okay, sweetie? I think it would be best for your sister not to know that. Ruby tilted her head and blinked, her eyes full of wonder. Why? Biting back a curse, Qrow rubbed the back of his neck and winced, thinking of what to say. Taking a deep breath, he exhaled, kneeling before Ruby, and gazed deeply into her glittering eyes. Ruby, honey, you have a gift. Something you got from your mother. A whispered hush fell on Ruby's lips as she gasped, holding her mouth over her lips. She felt her eyes misting once more as her thoughts turned to her mom, her hands slowly trailing down to the silver rose emblem she wore as a pendant her mother had given her. No, Ruby, not that kind of gift. Her uncle traced her hands, shaking his head and slowly lifting them until he caressed her cheeks and had her stare deeply into his eyes. Her eyes. You have her eyes, Ruby. And they were something special, capable of allowing her to accomplish things that no one else could do. Her eyes grew hearing her uncle speak. Her mom had special eyes, and she had them too. So did that mean, Mom and I are special? Ruby quizzically asked, gazing into her uncle's eyes with deep wonder. Very special. Qrow smiled before lifting his hand from her cheeks and ruffling the young girl's hair. I do not doubt that because of how special you are, it is allowing you to contact the boy and bring him to you. But having this power is dangerous, Ruby, and the more people that know about it can be bad. It's why your mom was secretive about it. She didn't want anyone she didn't trust to know.
So promise me you won't tell your sister. As we both know, Yang isn't known to be quiet. Qrow smiled, trying to hold back a chuckle as he made a joke at the expense of his other niece to make Ruby laugh. Let this be our little secret, okay? It worked as Ruby snickered, grinning. Yang was loud and talked a lot, so she nodded and smiled. Okay, Uncle Qrow.
Name still trips you up, huh? Qrow laughed a little before looking into Ruby's eyes. Good girl. Now, I need your help, Ruby. What's the kid's name? I need to be able to find him. Help explains things on his end, just in case something like this happens again.
Naruto. Ruby innocently answered her uncle, trusting him. Uzumaki Naruto. Don't get him in trouble. That a girl. Qrow grinned before patting Ruby on the shoulder. He's not in trouble. Gonna make sure he's safe too, okay? Okay. Ruby smiled, closing her eyes when a noise above the stairs caught their attention. Why is it so loud? Trying to sleep my hunger away. Yang. Ramen. Ruby happily cried as she pointed to the kitchen, past her uncle as she looked up the stairs and saw her sister rubbing her eyes. I made. Come. Qrow smiled proudly at Ruby. She was a good little liar. Too good. You are learning very quickly. Makoto's gentle voice carried over the loud, spinning machine that was called a washing machine that was designed to wash his clothes. That explained why it had water. The rest of it Naruto didn't understand, but he found it cool. And after it stopped, he was supposed to put it in the spinning one next called the dryer, and they would all be cleaned. That was really useful, as long as he remembered to put in. Soap. Naruto panicked, and he was about to open the washing machine when Makoto softly put her hand on the door, stopping him.
Relax. Makoto gave a beautiful smile before she patted him on the shoulder. It is okay to forget, sometimes. It will take time and practice to remember, so do not fret. I predicted it this time and had the machine preloaded with soap. Nani? Naruto scowled, placing his fists on his hips, squinting his eyes, and glaring at Makoto with puckered lips. How did you know I was gonna forget? Oh, child, Makoto chuckled, a vivid smile on her face as she gently laughed. I have always known you. Of course, it was going to escape your mind. It is who you are. If only, Makoto sighed, a twisted snarl escaped her lips as she turned so he could not see her face, her voice showing none of her visual frustration. Come along. While learning to take care of the house is an important aspect, you must also be capable of taking care of your mind and be able to learn. I noticed yesterday you struggled with reading the instructions, and I feel I need to assist your ability to read, child. Naruto stumbled back as he watched the fading figure of the Uchiha walk from the weird room that he still didn't know the name of yet. What she said confused him so much. What did that even mean? How could she have always known him? That didn't make any sense. It was so frustrating that he wanted. Naruto, come along, Makoto's voice chimed from just outside the room. We don't have much time, so let us pick up the pace. I still have several other lessons planned after this. Naruto groaned as he started to drag his feet and roll his eyes. This was becoming a lot of work, and he didn't like it. Maybe she was like all the others, just in a different way. Don't you carry that tone with me. She snapped and caused Naruto to jump and then shrink upon hearing a distinct voice that he had never heard before. Now come. But instinctively knew what it was, and he shuddered and quickly obeyed her commands. He wasn't sure why, but he knew not to do what he just did again. Red like roses, Ruby hummed happily, wiggling as she stood on a chair next to her sister as Yang whistled as they stood in front of the oven. Once Ruby had shown Yang how she could cook ramen, Yang took to it, and the two had taken to it all day. Qrow had left early in the morning, looking for Naruto after telling them he was going out for a job to keep their secret from Yang. And it was fun, so much better than yesterday. Her sister was smiling, laughing, and talking so much more. When they were cooking, they were coloring and playing games again like they always did. But it wasn't the same. There was still something wrong. Her eyes trailed to her parent, Dad's door as the bubble in noodles began to rise in the pot. Yang was still so quiet at times. Still so mad, no longer screaming, but she could see it in her eyes, and she would stomp around in front of the door after knocking on it so many times or going in, keeping her out when she tried to follow her in. Why didn't her sister want her to see Dad? What was the matter? Was something wrong? Was he sick? If he was sick, she hoped he got better soon. She missed playing with him, hearing his voice when he would talk to her, show her how to do things, read her books to her.
Ruby sniffled as they poured 3 bowls of ramen as they had been doing, one for both of them.
And one for Dad that Yang would take to him. Sliding off the chair, Ruby snatched the bowl, almost gushing herself with the steaming hot liquid as it sloshed onto the floor as she stumbled and carried forward toward her father's room. Yang tripped behind her, caught off guard as she was startled by her sister's sudden action. "Ruby, I'll do it, hold on." Ruby was tired of not seeing her dad today. She wanted to see him. Know what was wrong. Why hadn't he come like he had yesterday? Reaching up to the handle of the door, she jiggled it until the door was pushed ajar, and she pushed the door open with her shoulder, wincing as some of the broth sloshed and scalded her forearm. It hurt so much, she wanted to cry and drop the bowl, but she didn't want to ruin her dad's dinner. She just wanted to see him and have him eat too. And there he was, still sitting in the same position she saw him yesterday when she tugged and pulled on him before Yang pulled him away from him. His eyes vacantly staring at the floor below. 2 other bowls of ramen were sitting on the nightstand, uneaten where Yang had left them. "Dad," Ruby took ginger steps as she carefully carried the bowl to her father, watching him as she offered the bowl with a soft smile. "I made it, come, eat." He didn't move, even as she pressed the bowl against his arm, nudging it against him before following in Yang's example and putting the bowl on the stand. Ruby didn't stop, however, as she climbed onto the bed, placing her tiny hands on his arm and gently shook. "Dad, it's time to eat. Do you not feel good?" "Nothing." Silver eyes misted as she couldn't understand what was wrong. What had happened? What was wrong with her dad? Why didn't he say anything? Even if he was sick, he would cough and say something. Was it that he missed Mom too? She sniffled. She certainly did, and she didn't know how to handle it. And while it hurt, her friend made her feel better last night for the first time. And while she still missed Mom. "Dad," Ruby's silver eyes glistened with tears as she touched his shoulders. "Mom was a hero. Wasn't she? Fighting the Grimm, for everyone and us. So that makes her a hero, just like in the stories. But I still miss her." Ruby sniffled as she lowered her head, her hand slipping from her dad's shoulder, missing the ever so subtle tightness in his face and the glistening in his eyes. "I want Mom instead." "Ruby," Yang called for her sister, seeing her sister on the bed and her father still in the same position he had been in the last few days. She scowled at the sight before gently walking over, reaching out for her sister. "Come on, Ruby, let's give Dad his space." "No," Ruby cried, slapping her sister's hand away while shaking her head as she defiantly gazed back into Yang's stunned lilac eyes. "Dad is hurt. Want to help." Yang shrunk back, gripping her wrist, unsure of how to respond. Glancing over at the state her father was in, however, only made her grit her teeth. Without warning, she reached out and grabbed Ruby's wrist and yanked her off the bed, pulling her toward the door. "Come on, you can't help him, he's gone too." "No, he's not." Ruby didn't understand. She had never seen her sister act like this before and pulled back against her, screaming at her. "He's here, he's just sad, I can feel it. He's gone." Yang turned and snapped at her sister, eyes burning furiously as she stomped her foot. "He's gone just like my mom. Just like Summer. She left us all alone with this. She did this. She didn't have to go. Summer left us." The moment those words left Yang's voice, her face washed with regret. Tears flooded down Ruby's cheeks as her body trembled, her knees barely able to hold her weight up. But they held firm as she let out a tremendous cry as she bolted past Yang. One that caused Yang's heart to grip as she watched her sister run straight through the front door and cause her to panic. "I hate you, Yang." "Ruby, wait, I'm sorry," was the last words Ruby heard as she fled out into the woods nearby her house, following a trailed path. As autumn leaves fell, a cabin slowly came into view as she ran, her heart pounding as her little feet carried her as far as they could. And as it did, a voice echoed. One she recognized, as someone she could trust. Maybe things would be better again, she could only hope. "Ruby, what's going on? Why are you crying again?" "We are fighting dreamers." Naruto sang a tune that only seemed to know the lyrics of as he flicked the oven switch off and moved the pot as the water had boiled to the perfect point, and it was almost time to stir in the flavor packet. "Just go my way, yeah." It had been a pretty rough morning, all considering, but a lot was accomplished with his time with Makoto. She was very strict and stern with him, impressing the importance of what she was teaching. Yet he didn't feel she ever was once mean or upset with him. Although he could tell, she was upset. He had to wonder why. She didn't seem to be in a good mood throughout the day, even when a man that was her husband came by and checked on her and delivered her a message. He was interesting too. Wouldn't say he ignored him like many of the villagers, although he did seem to pretty much not pay attention to him.
But unlike others, he did say something to him, and that intrigued him. You remind me of someone. It remains to be seen if you will be like him, but one can only hope. Naruto tapped his chin after he stirred in his seasoning packet, thinking about what the man had said. He reminded the man of someone. He had to wonder who. And he hoped he would be like him. That seemed like good praise. It wasn't anything terrible as he heard from other people, so he kind of liked the man.
Moving to pick out a bowl to use for his dinner, Naruto grinned. He was starting to meet many more people he liked now that he moved out of the orphanage. So it was a big win.
He was also running into a lot of people he didn't like and didn't enjoy that, and this place still felt so.
Naruto sighed and shook his head, dishing the noodles into his bowl, forcing a smile. He was learning things and meeting people, and he might even have a new friend. Too, even if he counted Ruby. He wondered how she was doing now, hoped she was doing okay and understood what he showed her about cooking ramen. And if there was a cup, he wished he could have shown her how to work the kettle. Wish I knew how to get in contact with her. Naruto frowned, scratching his head with his right hand as he set down his bowl on his kitchen table. Or knew what was going on. Like, is it me or her that is causing this? Because now I'm confused. If anyone knows anything, they are not telling me.
Ah, what the? Naruto returned his right hand, feeling a deep ache within before scowling as this pain felt familiar. Wait, the last time I felt this was when?
It was a low thrum at first, but he could hear it. He knew what it was. It was Ruby, and she was crying again. His eyes focused on his hand, feeling the ache slowly soothe and wash away, and a golden hue began to spread. And on his hand, a weird dotted circle appeared on the palm.
Okay, maybe it did have to do with both him and Ruby. But why, though? What was bringing the two of them together?
But none of that mattered for now. His friend was upset again. And this time, something had upset her, and she labored breathing like she was running. He wanted to know what was wrong, so he soothingly called out to her. Ruby, what's going on? Why are you crying again?
I hate my sister. She's mean, Ruby cried, struggling to speak each word, and he could barely understand what she was saying.
But he got the message, shrinking a little at hearing that. He didn't know how to even feel about something like that. He didn't have a sibling, but to hear she hated her and saying she was mean was kind of rough to hear. He couldn't think of why that would happen.
Got to slow down. Naruto softly spoke, trying to comfort the girl as he forced a smile. Why don't you stop and take a break? Tell me what happened.
Maybe we can figure this out together. Sitting on the dirt path, leaves gently falling from the trees as she tossed rocks over the cabin nearby, Ruby sulked. One arm wrapped around her knee as her other hand trailed the dirt path beneath, searching for another rock to throw, silver eyes listlessly looking before her, tears having dried. So your sister was angry about your dad, huh? Naruto sounded sad now, too, making Ruby bite her lip. Upset about your mom too. And she just let it out. Ruby nodded, gazing limply at the dusty path before tossing another stone down the road, tucking her head and sniffling, wiping her nose. We have different moms. What? Naruto sounded confused. Her mom, left after she was born. Ruby poked the dirt next to her absently. My mom helped dad and took care of my sister. And soon after, I came. She never got to know her mom. And now that my mom is gone, she's had two moms leave her. And with dad being weird.
Everyone but Uncle Qrow has left us, and he is usually gone. Ruby sniffed and rubbed her nose again. Naruto was silent. She didn't know if something had happened, but he didn't speak for some time. The hole she was poking in the ground was getting pretty big.
I can see where she's coming from. Naruto sounded like he was crying, making Ruby tear up as well. Feeling that alone, yeah, I get that. It hurts, so I understand where her anger is coming from.
And you running from what she said, can't blame ya.
Naruto bit back a sob from what it sounded like to her. But ya know, it sounded like she didn't mean, ya know. She was just upset and letting loose. The last thing she wants to do is scare off the last person she has around that means something to her. I know I wouldn't want to do that. Everything she said was just what was in her heart and what was hurting her, and if she didn't say it, it was only going to keep hurting her. It just sucks you had to hear and face it, Ruby. Young, Ruby sneezed as she struggled to hold back her tears, wiping away the drippage before looking up at the darkening sky above. Doesn't hate me, and my mom, and dad.
Nah, Ruby, she doesn't. Naruto's voice came reassuringly. She loves all of you. She's just like you, hurting. So don't be afraid to share your feelings with her, okay? Okay. Ruby nodded, bringing her hands to her eyes to rid herself of her tears. Good. Now get back home before it gets too dark. She could hear Naruto's voice lift and be further upbeat again. Don't want to be outside in the dark. Who knows what big and scary creatures are out there. We got wolves and tigers out here.
Grimm, Ruby said as if Naruto would understand what that was as she got up, looking back on the trail she had run down. They are everywhere. Dangerous. Why mom and dad fight them all the time to protect people?
What the heck are Grimm? Naruto muttered, leaving Ruby to stop.
How did Naruto not know what a Grimm was? Every child in Remnant was taught at a young age what Grimm were. Through stories and news, they were always present.
Their presence was everywhere. A ferocious growl froze her to her very core.
Her eyes widened as heaviness weighed upon her, and she slowly turned, and her heart sank, seeing the one thing that terrified her the most.
The very creatures that took her mother from her. NNNOOO, Grimm are here.
NNNOOO. Grimm are here. What? Naruto heard Ruby's cry of alarm, jumping out of his seat and knocking over his now cold bowl of ramen, uncaring about the noodles. Ruby, get out of there. Run. Hearing her panicked screams, Naruto frustratedly looked at his sparkling hand and used one of the few words he had picked up from the adults in his life. Damn, there has to be something I can do. Why don't you work in my favor, stupid thing? I was summoned to her side. Now summon me to her. Naruto grabbed the wrist of his right hand, glaring at it, uncaring he didn't have a clue on how to help or even if he could. If there is something I can do to help, let me do it.
All he knew was that he wanted to help, that he needed to help. It was what the fourth would have done, and he wanted to be just like him. Saving and protecting people in need. What the? He felt a cool warmth fill his entire being, and his whole body began to glow a deep golden glow. Is it working? About.
Naruto. A voice called for him, and he saw a new person, this one with long purple hair wearing a porcelain mask, enter his room.
Why do people keep showing up when weird things happen? Naruto screamed as a golden light throughout his room, and the boy had vanished. Leaving the young woman dumbfounded at the scene, cursing on how to report what occurred.
Not this time. Naruto held his hands and put his knees forward, grunting as he hit the ground, starting to get accustomed to his entrance even if he winced at the jolt it sent through said limbs.
An unearthly howl and hissing caught his attention, followed by a girl's screams.
Naruto's head snapped up as he was directly in front of the weirdest-looking black and white wolf creatures he had seen before, who had taken a step back from his appearance. No, not his appearance.
Two creatures were writhing on the dirt path, flames engulfing their body until their bodies came to a rest. And then they dissolved into smoke and became nothing. Yo, what? Naruto rolled onto his back, not believing what he had seen with his eyes. What are these things? Grimm. Ruby screamed, tugging at the back of Naruto's shirt, panicked and frightened, more so now that her friend was her. Run, run. I can agree to that. Naruto rolled up and on his feet, brushing his hand through the dirt to pick up as many rocks as he could as he did so. A few stones to throw back at them could be helpful. He had a decent aim, having started playing ninja and learning to throw wooden kunai. He did have quite the arm, so maybe a few rocks to their face could deter them.
But he soon realized he was much faster than Ruby and was leaving her behind. Snatching her hand, he pulled her along as fast as her legs could travel. He wanted to pick her up, but he wasn't sure he could lift her and travel as fast. Man, he wanted to be a cool ninja and fight these creatures, but he was scared. He didn't know a single cool technique either, or how to fight. That was the real problem. What was worse was they were quickly catching up. Even if he was running at his full speed, he was sure they would have caught him. Ruby didn't have a chance. Take this, Naruto yelled, tossing a stone back behind him and at the creature, whiffing entirely as throwing at a moving target behind you was completely different than an immobile target. Oh, come on. The second and third tries didn't work either, and he was down to his last stone. And with one last heave, as one was almost upon them, Naruto caught the Grimm wolf in the eye and halted its run as it tumbled and took the others out with it. Oh yeah, Naruto grinned as they kept running, feeling way too overconfident about what he had accomplished. I am the best there is. You better believe it. Gonna be the Hokage someday, ya hear? Just like the four. As another jumped from the woods and joined the chase, leaping out toward them and, more particularly, it was going to land on Ruby. Before a thought could come, Naruto felt claws enter his shoulders. And he placed his on Ruby and shoved her out of the way, taking the tackle as he was struck and pinned to the ground, collapsing without a scream. Naruto! Ruby wailed, her eyes filled to the brim with tears rolling down her cheeks after rolling through the dirt upon seeing her friend lying limply under the Grimm. He had saved her, that should have been her. And as the others rushed in, over toward him, she was unable to do anything except cry. She wanted to help, be a hero, be like her mom. Like the fourth Hokage Naruto had mentioned. Just like he was to her. She just wanted to help. Naruto. Ruby screamed, her tear-soaked eyes shining brilliantly as her body lifted and silver wings lit from her eyes as a light flashed and overtook the Grimm,
dissolving and turning them to dust. And Ruby collapsed to the path below, her breathing shallow. Ruby, Naruto muttered, his eyes flickering as he saw the silver light, and in an instant, the weight of the Grimm that was on him vanished, and all he saw were particles floating and fading before his eyes.
Rolling painfully on his side, he saw the young girl lying unconscious, flat on her stomach. He wasn't sure what happened, but if it was a silver light, somehow he felt she was involved. He didn't know how or what she did. But her powers were incredible. Just like whatever his were too. If they had some way of controlling them, that'd be great. A growl brought Naruto back to reality, and he looked back down the path. There is still more. Give me a break. Can't run anymore. Don't have to, kid, a voice echoed from behind him, the sound of something whirring, only to weakly turn around and see a man wielding the largest scythe he had ever seen. I've got this. You did well holding them off as long as you did. Go back home. I'll take care of Ruby. The man stepped before Naruto as golden orbs flickered around Naruto, his gaze intent on the creatures before him. I can promise you she'll be safe. As the forest filled with golden light, roars were silent, and Grimm slowly dissolved to smoke as a lone man shifted his scythe into a sword and placed it onto his back, gazing back to where the golden aura faded.
Now, where do you come from is the better question, as an Uzumaki Naruto doesn't exist in this world. Falling into the water, barely floating within, Naruto turned to the massive demon. The one he knew that brought havoc to his village 5 years before. The one that the fourth Hokage supposedly defeated and was now standing before him. Walled off by this gate. Even filled with rampant fear and trepidation, his heart beating in his ears and drumming throughout his body.
Naruto heard what the beast said. Did it know what was happening to him? And why was it acting so calm? Wasn't it supposed to be some aggressive monstrosity that wreaked destruction and was made of malice? That's what everyone said. The beast's long ears perked up, and it snarled, its scarlet eyes flashing as it gazed upon him. Seems our time is limited, as expected. Know this, child. Things are not as they seem. If you were anyone else, I would not care. But you are Ashura and can bring an end to this cycle. Struggling to his feet, looking at the massive creature, feeling pain within his head as everything began to blur and darken, Naruto wobbled on his feet. He tried shaking his head, but it was to no avail. No, he was just starting to get some answers. Even if this was a scary fox demon, it knew something. He had to try and say something. Hey, I'm not this Asura or whatever. My name is Uzumaki Naruto. Naruto angrily retorted at the giant beast of a fox. Now, what's this about all the other stuff? I can't follow a word you're saying. Even with his vision blurring and blackening, being barely able to stand as his swaying form staggered, Naruto found the fox's response condensing. It smugly grunted at him, and with it smirking at him with its muzzle. Was that possible? Just like your mother, brazen yet courageous. Both truly are Ashura's descendants. Know this, I will be watching you very closely. To see if you are worthy of such honor, Uzumaki Naruto. Even as his vision began to fade, his body went limp, falling into the murky water below. Something within him stirred and whirled. What did the beast say? Did it just admit it knew his mother? But how? How did the fox that the fourth Hokage know his mother? Why did he know her? No, this wasn't fair. Naruto needed to know more. Everything was so pretty, it was like a spring garden filled with roses everywhere. A warm, gentle breeze flowed through the garden, scattering the petals around her. Her eyes glistened at the sight. It was so beautiful. Then something fluttered gently through her hair as if combing through it. It was a reminiscent feeling. It felt like a hand patting and calming her. Mom. Ruby's eyes shone, silver wings sparkling in the corners of her eyes, as she turned around to see. A glowing silver silhouette knelt before her, softly smiling. I'm sorry, my little Rose, the silhouette spoke, hand combing through Ruby's hair. I never thought this would happen or you would awaken to this so soon. Mom. Tears streamed down from Ruby's eyes as she lunged forward, embracing the silver specter. I miss you. I want you to come home. I know, dear, Summer's silhouette gently soothed her weeping daughter. But I can no longer keep my promise, Ruby. No, Ruby. Summer attempted to reach through her wailing daughter, her glistening body beginning to sparkle and scatter into roses. Listen, my lovely child. I want you back home. Ruby wept as Summer's glowing form began to softly break free from her grasp and scatter before her very eyes. There are some things I cannot accomplish, my little Rose. Summer shed a tear as she dissipated before expressing a sad smile. Ruby, before I go, our eyes are special. Able to do incredible things, it's how I'm here talking to you one last time in your dreamscape.
You wished for it, and so it became a reality. Summer's translucent body slowly faded into more and more roses as Ruby's tears soaked her face. I wished for it, Ruby sobbed, watching the vestiges of her mother disappear before her eyes. I wished, my friend to me, too. You wished for a friend? Summer's image faded into roses, her face barely visible, but her voice trembled. Ruby, are you hearing someone's voice?
Yes, my friend, Uzumaki Naruto, Ruby cried, watching her mother disperse into rose petals swirling all around her, falling to her knees as tears streamed down her face. No, don't go, don't leave me again.
I'm sorry, little Rose, Summer's last words whispered in the wind. I love you, always, and tell your friend, his mother and I are old friends, been talking to her since your age. Tell him Summer Rose wishes I could have been there for Kushina. Lights filled his vision. Terrible beeping followed. Annoying, constant beeping. And the smell of a foul, obnoxious odor filled his nostrils. What was this place? Why was he here instead of his home? Why could he not wake up in his bed for once? What was this place? What were these weird machines? Were those wires sticking into him? Ah! Get out of me! Demon! Foul beast! Naruto screamed as he yanked on the wires connecting to his arms and violently freaked out before a soft, gentle hand was placed on his shoulder. They're not hurting you. Naruto gazed up and saw a white porcelain mask reminiscent of a cat and brown eyes behind that held a gentleness. They're monitoring your condition and keeping you hydrated. You've been out for some time. Nani? Naruto panicked, still jerking and nearly pulling the wires out at hearing that he had been out for a while before remembering that creature had pounced on him. Oh, stupid wolf creature pouncing on me while protecting Ruby.
Slow down. The purple-haired young lady in a porcelain mask interrupted with a calm, collected voice as she kept Naruto connected to the machines. Explain what happened. You were summoned to the girl before, and now there were creatures.
Yeah. Naruto rapidly nodded and moved his entire body to narrate his story, making it difficult to keep the medic wires attached.
I heard Ruby crying again. She was sad again as something was wrong with her dad and her sister, and she had a fight and ran away. I was talking to her, and I comforted her. Then these weird creatures called, what did she call them, Jim? Grimm, something like that. They attacked her, and she tried to run but couldn't get away, and I could hear everything. I just wanted to help her any way I could, and I was suddenly there running away from the creatures with her. Owned by nailing them in the face with rocks. Naruto embellished the story as he held up his fist victoriously, and the cat-masked teenager rolled her eyes, hearing his tone as she kept his wires attached, able to decipher his embellishment as he blushed a moment later as she flatly stared. But, they were too much and kept chasing us and caught up. One leapt and would have caught Ruby, and I couldn't let that happen. My body moved, and I pushed her out of the way and let it take me instead. Then something cool happened. Naruto emphatically pumped his fist and pulled the wires free, much to her annoyance, and she smacked the machine as it set off an alarm, not wanting a nurse to come in at the moment. Her eyes glowed, and this silver light just covered the area, and all the creatures turned to ashes. It was, like, awesome. I want to learn a technique like that. She passed out after it, and more showed up, but a cool dude with a scythe showed up, and I passed out. A dojutsu? The woman with purple hair muttered to herself, frowning under her mask. An undiscovered one, perhaps. Interesting, Naruto. Then something weird happened as I woke up for the first time. Naruto hung his head sullenly, remembering what happened. It was dark and wet. I couldn't see well, and I didn't understand what was leading me, but something kept pulling me to the center of the place where a gate was. A gate. She was alarmed, her brown eyes shimmering as she feared where the story was heading. Wait, Naruto, let me get. And I saw the same demon that the fourth Hokage defeated 5 years ago. Naruto turned and looked straight into the masked woman's fearful gaze. I thought the fourth killed the demon. Maybe he just defeated it, and it ran away. I just ended up in its area by this weird power of mine. Unsure of how to tell him or even what to say about meeting the fox, she could only nod. It was true that the fourth defeated the Nine Tails and didn't kill it. She couldn't tell him how he conquered it and how he met it was. It was weird. Naruto looked down thoughtfully. I thought he would be scarier, but he didn't seem mean. He even said he knew my mother, and what was happening to me. Something about being as Asura. I wanted to ask him what was happening, but I suddenly woke up here. Remaining quiet, the masked teenager stayed still, unmoving. The door suddenly burst open as a nurse came in to check on the situation, finally having recognized the machines were no longer monitoring Naruto's condition. Oh, he's awake, hellacious little pest, allow me. I have everything under control. The cat-masked Kunoichi coldly gazed upon the woman, her voice authoritative, and Naruto shivered as he could feel something else underneath her tone. He has recovered. There are no signs of lingering issues, and all vital signs are nominal. Lord Hokage requested to see him when he awoke, so I will escort him. Take your leave.
The nurse froze momentarily. Then the door slammed, and she was gone faster than Naruto could blink. What just happened? What did he see? Why was she so scared? Did the cat mask lady do something? Say something weird? He didn't think so? Naruto, her voice now seemed far more serene, comforting even as she turned her attention back to him, offering her right hand. Lord Hokage wished to see you when you were awake, so let's be off. I don't want to bother the old man. Naruto sullenly looked away. He's already so busy.
He's always busy. The young masked teen chuckled, placing her hand on Naruto's shoulder. But he makes time for everyone, and taking care of their issues is what being Hokage is about. He wants to make sure you're safe and wants to see you. And you can tell him your story yourself, okay? I think he would like to hear it, especially about the part where you saved the girl.
Really? Naruto beamed, looking back home and grinning like a fool. You think he would want to hear it?
Of course, he would. Every single word. She smiled under the mask and tilted her head, lacing her words carefully. He will be especially thrilled to hear how you protected the girl. That's a trait he often looks for in our future shinobi, ones earmarked for greatness.
The signs of someone with wool of fire burning brightly within them, waiting to be kindled.
Naruto's eyes widened in excitement as he shook giddy. Everything that happened before was dumped out of his head as the last thing said was stuck on repeat.
He was marked for greatness. Oh yeah, believe it. Ruby. Yellow was the first thing she saw. It smothered her vision. Blurred it. Squeezed her tightly until she was gasping for air.
I'm so sorry. She heard Yang's high-pitched voice as it wailed in her ear, shaking her on the lumpy bed that did not feel like hers. I didn't mean anything I said. I was just mad. I didn't mean to take it out on you. I'm sorry. So sorry. Yang. Ruby looked at the blonde hair obscuring her vision before her eyes misted, and she embraced her sister. I love you. Sorry, I ran. I know you are too.
Yang's cries only echoed louder in her eyes, and her grip tightened, but it didn't bother Ruby in the slightest. Her friend was right. Her sister didn't hate her. She just needed to get her pain out, just like her. As her sister's yellow hair started to become less intrusive and she could see past it, Ruby observed the room curiously. This wasn't their room. Where was this place? This bed was too big, hard and lumpy. A Grinch had to sleep on it, and those bottles all over the place were weird. She had seen a few in the house before. Mom, Dad, and Uncle Qrow drank them at special times. But here they were just everywhere. Yang, Ruby asked quizzically, scanning the room as she was confused. Where are we? Softly letting go of her sister and sniffling, Yang wiped her eyes until she could see properly. A few more sobs came, and she took a deep breath to settle down. We're at Uncle Qrow's. He took us to his place. Uncle's Qrow's. Ruby tilted her head, her eyes wide as she looked around and started nodding before frowning. Where's Dad? Yang scowled before turning away, but her eyes shimmered as she clutched her chest, still at home, but it was scary. What? Ruby frowned, her eyes shimmering. Why? Uncle Qrow returned with you on his shoulder, madder than I've ever seen him.
Yang distantly looked down at the bed, recalling the memory. He told me to stay beside you and not move as he put you on the couch. I did as he said, scared you were hurt. He went straight into Dad's room and slammed the door. So many crashes. So much yelling. I thought I heard another voice yelling. A woman's. He came out, more upset, picked you up, took my hand, and brought us here. Gasping, Ruby covered her mouth. It sounded awful. She never heard anything like that before. It didn't sound good what happened. She had listened to some yelling before, mostly from Uncle Qrow when he was drinking his special drink, but it was all in good fun, and he was smiling when he did it. This didn't sound like that. Silver eyes glossed over. She hung her head. What was wrong with her dad? Why was Uncle Qrow so mad at him too? Wasn't he sick? Hurting? Shouldn't they be helping him? Hearing a click, Ruby's head lifted to the door she had noticed and saw it open. And her uncle emerged, his eyes bloodshot, eyelids heavy, and his expression weary as he put on a smile seeing Ruby awake. Ah, thought it was getting a little loud. How you doing, kiddo? Frowning, seeing the sullen reactions as Ruby hung her head and Yang looked away, Qrow exhaled deeply. Running his hand through his hair, he shook his head. This was going to be a chore,
when he had no choice in the matter. It had been a couple of strange days. Ever since talking to the old man, Naruto had noticed things had been a lot different. He was told he would soon join the ninja academy, which was exciting. He was one step closer to becoming like his idol, and soon, he would reach that goal. It wouldn't take long now. But first, he had to keep taking lessons from Makoto very seriously about taking care of his apartment, and now how to better learn to read and write too. Those were such a drag. And she was very strict with them, still nice, but she was very focused and wouldn't let him slack for a moment. She also had this odd demeanor around him. Like she had this look in her eyes. A sad expression as she looked upon him. What was she sad about? Why did she seem like she was ready to cry sometimes? Was it something he did? If it were, he would do better. Also, the silver-haired masked guy and purple-haired lady were showing up at night more often, taking him out and playing ninja with him when he could find other kids to play with, even though they were too old to play the game. Other kids wouldn't play with him despite how hard he tried to get involved in their games. 3 or 4 kids would accept him into a game, and that was it. A nice pineapple-haired kid, a big round boy, a girl with blonde hair, and a brown-haired boy with red triangles on his face. They were cool. He wished he could play with them more often. Or play with Sasuke, but he was never around the other kids. Maybe he was shy. But the masked man and lady would play with him and point out specific things he did while playing. Things initially seemed quite annoying, but when he applied them or followed their example,
they really helped, and it made it a lot more fun when he could almost hit them. But they were excellent and kept avoiding him and telling him he was close. Naruto, Makoto's voice gently brought him back to reality and drew him back to the work before him, making him frown as he looked at the book. You were lost in thought again. I know paying attention is hard for you, but please focus. Let's start at the top again.
Not again. Naruto rolled his eyes, earning a stern stare from the Uchiha matriarch that made him wince as he looked at the top line and sighed. Fine. As he began to read out loud once more absently, his thoughts drifted again. And worry crept into his mind as ever since all of this happened, it all started with him moving into this place and hearing her crying. And now he hadn't heard from her in days, and it worried him. He could only hope that meant Ruby was okay and that Scytheman had taken care of those monsters. Naruto really hoped so. He wanted his friend to be safe. Naruto. Makoto, now a little more irritated, pressed the boy, from the top. No, I'm done. No more reading. It boring. Makoto narrowed her eyes, and the room lowered several degrees in temperature. Naruto shivered as a cold shiver swept down his spine and stared into her eyes, devoid of emotion, before a soft smile crept on her lips. Naruto, dear, was the last thing he wanted to hear from her lips. He knew he had messed up. Ruby didn't like it here.
She wanted to be back home. She wanted to be back home with Dad. To see him being okay. To see him up, out of bed like he used to be. Cooking breakfast, watering the plants, going to work, ready fairy tales for her and Yang before bedtime. Ruby loved her uncle, but this wasn't home. This place didn't feel right. Nothing felt okay. It felt wrong. Quiet. Yang wasn't speaking much. She talked to her and would talk to her uncle. There just wasn't much to say. Ruby was sure she didn't want to be here either. She wanted to be home too. Or, she wanted to be somewhere that didn't feel so empty. Uncle Qrow was gone most of the day, and they didn't know what to do in this place, so she and Yang didn't do much. Going outside was scary as they were in Vale and didn't know any places nearby. If there was a park to play in or anything. Or if they needed supervision. Things they didn't need at home. She just wanted to be somewhere. Doing something. Anything. Her eyes opened wide as a thought came to her. Ruby had forgotten her friend. What had happened to her friend? Naruto had saved her from the Grimm, and then everything went blank. She hadn't asked anything about it to her uncle. She was too afraid to after hearing what happened from Yang. She was sure if she was okay, so was he, but with what happened. Now she just wanted to know if he was okay. To see if he was okay. I wish. Ruby absently kicked the air while sitting on the couch, gently bringing her fingers to her eyes and rubbing them. I knew if Naruto was okay, I wouldn't want my friend to be hurt because of me. I want to see him again, sighing as she held her head down, closing her eyes, knowing that wouldn't happen. Ruby brought her hands to her knees. What was she going to do for the rest of the day? Both she and her sister were getting so bored. Yo, Ruby. Ruby heard her sister's voice from Qrow's room and the door opening. I think I found something. Might not last long, but I found a recorder so we can make vid, Ruby. Make what? Ruby opened her eyes, not realizing they were sparkling and glazed in a silver glow. Yang. What's wrong? Ruby. You. Yang stumbled backward,
falling onto her rump as a terrified expression filled her. You are glowing. What is happening? This is different from the service. I'm glowing? Ruby looked down and saw her entire body glittering in an ethereal silver glow and starting to disappear, similarly to her mother's in her dream. Oh, my wish came true. You're what? Yang screamed in horror, not understanding anything she saw, trying to scramble and crawl to her feet, seeing her sister dispersed before her eyes. No, 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 I can't lose you too. This isn't happening. I'll be back. Ruby waved as a silver light began to fill the room and smiled. My friend came like this and went back home, so I'll come back home shortly too. Bye, Yang. What? Yang's screams echoed throughout Qrow's apartment as a silver light flashed through the windows, blinding her. With a single step forward, her hair softly fluttering, Ruby looked ahead and saw a strange kitchen she had never seen before. Her eyes opened wide in vivid amazement. Was this Naruto's house? Had she come to his place like he had come to hers the first time? So many things she recognized and things she didn't. This place was neat, and this was all his? Must be lonely. Ah, my eyes are burning from that. She heard his voice and excitedly turned around to see who she had come to visit. Ruby, what are you doing here? How? He was there. Naruto was okay. Her friend was okay. Naruto. Ruby's eyes shone with wings slowly fading from the corner of her eyes as she leapt over and hugged him. I was worried you were hurt, so I wished to see you again, and now I'm here. Wait, is that how this works? Naruto blinked in confusion. Well, I did want to help you no matter what. Before he could finish his words, his front door was snapped open. Naruto and Ruby's attention was snapped to the intruder to see Makoto standing in the doorway, quickly sliding something behind her back, her eyes wide at the scene before her. It can't be. Makoto looked confused at the young girl, petrified. She's here.
Hi, I'm Ruby Rose. Ruby greeted the lady at the door with a bright living smile before she turned back to Naruto. Oh, I remember something else. Gotta share. I got to talk to my mom.
What? Naruto flinched in surprise upon hearing that statement and looked shocked. How? Didn't she? I wished to talk to her again, and my eyes allowed it to happen. Ruby gleamed, babbling as energy surged, making her seem like a hyperchild. And guess what? My mom said she knew yours. That they talked since they were our age. Summer, Makoto whispered gently, her eyes misty before she closed them and looked away. So she wasn't crazy all those times saying she was talking to someone. That's my mom's name. Ruby turned to the strange woman before curiously tilting her head at her. How did you know her name? My most trusted friend always talked about her. Makoto grinned, opening her eyes as she held back a smirk and tears while looking down at the young child. Tell me, child, did Summer give a name to Naruto's mother by chance? Oh. Ruby turned back to Naruto, silver eyes open wide. Yes, Kushina. And that she wished that, wait. If I can wish myself here, Ruby pondered, lowering her head at her mother's last statement, frowning as it didn't make any sense. If she and Naruto could transport to one another, would that mean their mothers would be able to do the same? Naruto trembled, hearing his mother's name for the first time, looking at Ruby and then strangely at Makoto, who only nodded. Was Kushina? Indeed it was. Makoto knelt before Naruto, combing her hand through his sharp and spiky hair and expressing a comforting smile while Ruby looked on timidly.
She was a strong, passionate woman filled with a conviction like I have never seen before. And a temper, oh, that fiery temper, and you are already so much like her, Naruto. That's why I said I've always known you, and I hope you continue to stay that way. I can think of no higher compliment for my best friend than to say her son turned out just like her.
Tears streamed down his cheeks. Sobs racked his body, hearing those words. Finally getting confirmation about his mother, knowing her name, after what the beat had said.
At least now, feeling a tight hug from the side as he tried to wipe his tears away, he looked to see Ruby, tears built in her eyes. It's okay to be sad. Remember, I miss my mom too, at least we cried together this time.
Smiling in his tears, seeing the girl crying alongside him, Naruto held his head a little higher. Yeah, you're right. It might be sad now. But they're still with us. Ruby smiled through the tears and tried to laugh.
Yes, they are, Makoto whispered, closing her eyes before taking a deep breath. Hey, there's an ice cream parlor nearby. Shall we get some ice cream quickly? I don't know if Ruby has much time if your adventures have anything to go by.
Oh, right. Naruto's eyes widened, still filled with tears realizing his friend was still there. I'll cover it, don't worry. Makoto laughed, ruffling the boy's hair and standing. Let's go quickly now. Yes. Both responded, trying to wipe their tears, ignoring the silver glow of her eyes and the golden gleam coming from his right hand. Makoto had noted it, but with a simple swirl of her crimson eyes, it wouldn't be noticeable to anyone else. At least until Ruby disappeared. Makoto smirked. She'd willingly take the heat for that. This morning was quite strange. He had started to become accustomed to Makoto coming to help him adjust to his new place, but when he heard the knock at the door, the person that greeted him was not who he expected. It wasn't Makoto. It was the old man. Why was he here today? Was something the matter? Wait, was Makoto not coming anymore? He was starting to learn so much from her.
He had just learned she was friends with his mom. But as the Hokage joined him in his little apartment, the old man ruffled his hair in the comforting manner he always did. Don't worry, my boy, I just wanted to talk with you this morning. So much has happened so quickly I feel it was necessary to come to you so you can understand.
Okay. Naruto curiously stared at the Hokage, who gazed upon him with a light expression and twinkle in his eyes before frowning as he hadn't gone through his morning routine yet. Oh, I need to make my breakfast. Most important part of the day. I think that is an important step of any day, my boy. Hiruzen chuckled and let Naruto start his breakfast. But I do suggest something other than ramen.
But I find it delicious. Oh no, you inherited her palate, Hiruzen quietly muttered, bringing his hand to his face in embarrassment at the child, and shook his head. Naruto, I'll take us out for breakfast this morning after we take care of business. How does that sound? Really? Naruto stopped as he was about to grab a package of ramen from his cabinet before slamming it close and jumping back to the table excitedly. Yada, okay, old man, you got a deal, whatcha want to talk about? Always full of energy, the Hokage muttered once more as he couldn't help but admire the child's enthusiasm before gesturing toward the chair as he pulled one out to take a seat. This may take a moment. Best to take a seat, my boy. Following the Hokage's example and doing as he said, cerulean eyes curiously glanced at the wrinkled expression of the old man. Is this about what's been going on? It's been really confusing, and I don't get it. After Ruby came here yesterday. It heavily factors into it, yes, Hiruzen affirmed with a nod and a deep, regretful sigh before inhaling as his brown eyes held a certain gleam in them as he looked upon Naruto. Naruto, my boy, I'm afraid there are some things I have neglected to tell you, and some are for your own good. I don't think, as of now, you need to worry about them as it is too much of a burden for you. But given what has happened, some context is needed. Negel, Khan, what? I failed to tell you some things, and I feel you need to know some of the reasons why. Hiruzen stroked his face, regretting the lack of teaching Naruto had received and allowing Makoto more leniency on teaching Naruto as he glanced at him in confusion.
This was unacceptable. Even at 5, going on 6 years old, he should have a little more grasp than this. Oh. Naruto spoke with a long and drawn-out emphasis as he now understood before his face fell and his eyes glistened. Is this about not telling me about my mother? Wistfully gazing at the young child, Hiruzen solemnly nodded. Yes, but there is more. Your mother is only part of what I kept from you. I never intended to keep the information from you to harm you, but to keep you safe until I felt you were ready to take on that challenge. But sometimes the best intentions are also the worst, which has been proven many times, and even I am a fool. What has happened recently has only proven that as it is something we overlooked and didn't think was important and has now turned out to be crucial. Naruto curiously gazed at the Hokage, not grasping what the man was saying for the most part. He could hear the remorse in his voice and knew he felt like he did something wrong about not telling him about his mother, but there seemed to be a reason for it. He wanted to learn more about what it was, but... Naruto, by chance, have you looked at your right hand recently? What? Naruto frowned at the old man's question before slowly raising his hand and looking into his palm. Hey, wait, what's with this strange mark? When did it get there? It's a particular sigil, my boy. A marking that I did not understand until recently what it meant. Something only 2 other people have ever possessed. One is the first Hokage, Senju Hashirama. Hiruzen told Naruto, drawing the child's eyes as they turned to massive ovals. Nani. The first has this mark. That is awesome. Naruto nearly jumped out of his chair in sheer excitement. What does it mean? Is it something cool? Does it grant me some sort of power? Wait, am I related to? Hold on, my boy. One question at a time. Hiruzen chuckled at the energetic response from Naruto, shaking his head as he had to hold off the child's ravenous response knowing how much he respected the Hokages and saw them as heroes. To be honest with you, a lot is still not understood about the marking, so I cannot tell you much about it. And no, you aren't related to the first directly. However, you both share a similar ancestor. The first person to share that mark, Otsutsuki Ashura, the Hokage stated,
And as expected, Naruto tilted his head and blinked. Yes, I know you don't know the name, and I don't expect you to. Its history before it was well documented and only verbally passed down, barely ever recorded. Only the oldest clans kept it documented, and what little information we have is usually about one man.
The one that began the renaissance of chakra itself by gifting it to the world, who brought about the first age of peace, the sage of six paths Otsutsuki Hagoromo. Nani? Naruto looked at the Hokage in awe at hearing such a story. Why is that story not told more often? That sounds awesome, I would like to hear it. It's one lost to time, I'm afraid, and it is becoming more so each and every generation as it becomes forgotten, as the old clans have slowly dwindled and their history and records have been lost to time.
Hiruzen's eyes glistened, reminiscing of past days before chuckling. Maybe some other time, but having that marking shows that you are something special, my boy. It may also be why these weird things are happening to you. You both may be even more special than your parents, and why I wanted to sit down and talk to you today, Naruto.
I think it's time for me to tell you who your father is now that you know about your mother. As Naruto's breath hitched at the thought of learning who his father was so soon after learning about his mother, his eyes glistened as he looked straight into the glimmering gaze of the old Hokage. His eyes glistened. All of this. All because he heard his new friend crying and wanted to help her. Now he was learning about who his family truly was. Somehow, he just hoped Ruby's day was going well for her, for if this was happening for him, he could only imagine what was happening to her. Young, Ruby is okay. She is not allowed to leave me again. Nah, not happening. No way, she's staying right here beside me. Qrow sighed, unsure how to handle this situation, as he watched his niece drag Ruby alongside her, refusing to let go of her sister, who looked helpless in her grasp. There was no denying that the scene she had witnessed was traumatizing for her. After having to deal with summers passing so suddenly and everything else that had followed, to see her sister just up and vanish in a flash of light was not an experience to take lightly. It was not something he was either, but he had to try and calm her down, as the last thing he needed was somehow Young to get transported if it were to happen. There was no guaranteeing how it worked, if it would work safely for her, if she could go at all, or she could just get stranded. Her just maintaining a steady grip on Ruby like she was some stuffed animal also wasn't healthy for either girl. Young. Ruby helplessly called her sister's name while entrenched in her grasp, wiggling desperately and kicking the air behind her. Need to use the bathroom.
Got it, bathroom. Yang turned to the bathroom and started to carry Ruby, who mournfully began to tear up as she hoped this would get her sister to let her go, but instead, she was dragging her to the bathroom. Okay. No, Qrow intervened, stopping Yang from taking Ruby into the bathroom. I know you are frightened about what happened, but you've got to give your sister space. You can't crowd her like this, firecracker. It's uncomfortable. I'm not losing her, Yang cried, her lilac eyes building up with tears as she held tightly onto Ruby, refusing to let go. No, you aren't taking Ruby from, bird, get out of hair.
What the? Qrow narrowed his eyes as a large black bird suddenly landed in Yang's hair, its crimson eyes glaring down at Yang before it picked her in the forehead. A foul snarl crossed his features as he noticed his window had been forced open, and he returned to the scene to see Yang continuously pecked in the head and screaming at the bird. Raven, this is not what I meant by stepping up.
Get out of my hair. Yang finally dropped Ruby as she tried to swat the bird away from her hair. You foul beast, Uncle Qrow, help. Ruby, go to the bathroom. Qrow simply helped Ruby stand up, his gaze still drawn to the scene with annoyance. Might want to take your chance while you get separation from Yang while you have it. Think your little episode scared her. Sorry, Ruby frowned, noticing the bird fly off Yang's head and almost perch itself behind Ruby as if daring Yang to come close to her sister again. I just worried about Naruto and wished to see him again, so I knew he was okay. Hey, Qrow gingerly patted Ruby's shoulders and softly smiled at her. I didn't say you did anything wrong, did I, kiddo? No, exactly. It's natural to want to know how a friend is doing. Qrow ruffled Ruby's hair, much to her chagrin, and what seemed like a laughing caw from the bird, which annoyed him as he had to refocus and settle his thoughts. We're just got to play things a little safer now that we're starting to learn how this connection between you and him works, okay? At least until we figure out everything about what is happening and how you two are linked and can come to each other's side.
Okay. Ruby nodded, her silver eyes gleaming as she looked up at Qrow, mostly understanding what her uncle said. Mom said that our eyes.
Whoa, hang on. Qrow's eyes narrowed, Yang gasped and stumbled, and the raven behind him cawed loudly behind her. Ruby, you're gonna have to explain that one right there. What do you mean your mom said?
I talked to her in my dreams. Ruby tilted her head at her uncle. She said our eyes can make wishes come true. That I was lonely, and they gave me a friend to talk to, a friend that was the son of her friend.
Another loud shriek from the bird terrified Ruby, but Qrow looked over at it and nodded. Yeah, I remember. She didn't talk much about it, but it was strange how she'd zone out with her eyes shining, wonder if Tai knows more than we do. He was thankful Young was too lost in the context of Ruby talking to her mother to catch him talking to the Raven to question his actions. Ruby was too young to ask him about what he was doing and might not suspect it. Young would have if she weren't terrified at hearing Ruby just said she had talked to her mother in her dreams. And was so confused about what was going on with her sister.
It was a break as he didn't want to have to come up with a lie about why her mother was in her corvid form in front of her instead of just being here normally. He wanted her or Tai to take the initiative with the children desperately needing a parent. This was not what he was expecting.
Well, we have at least an idea of what is happening on this end. Qrow frowned as he turned back to Ruby. But this never happened with Summer if that is the case. Or she had control over it as she never disappeared and her friend never came here.
Mom didn't go to see her friend. Ruby looked confused, gazing up at her uncle with her lips pursed.
Not unless she was doing it when we weren't aware, which I suppose is possible. Qrow shook his head before gesturing with his hands and shrugging. She always was a private individual, but since we've known her, someone was almost always around. I don't remember Raven or your dad ever saying anything about her disappearing like you did yesterday or a friend coming to see her like Naruto came to see you.
Oh, Ruby lowered her head and frowned. Mom could only hear her friend. Then why can I? Is that why she asked if I was hearing voices?
I don't know, Qrow stated simply as he gently lifted Ruby's head and gazed deeply into her eyes. There are some things in this world that simply don't have answers. Right now, this is one of those things. We don't have the answers for what is happening, and all we can do is try and search them out and be safe about it in the meantime. And that means taking caution about what we do. Does that make sense? Safe. Ruby looked up at Qrow, not entirely understanding what he was saying. Do you mean like not running into the forest by myself again? Yeah, definitely don't do that again. Qrow cracked a soft chuckle, wiping his eyes before leaning down and hugging Ruby. You are so damn innocent. It's not funny, Rose, we got to work on you disappearing on us and figure out what the Silver Eyes can do. It's not funny when you are scaring your sister half to death. Leaving me about the possibility of you never coming home, I don't think we can take that right now, alright, kiddo. Feeling the tight embrace of her uncle wrapped around her, Ruby's head lowered again. Everyone was so worried about her when she left. It was like she had done something terrible. Even if her uncle had said she hadn't, it felt like she had.
Okay, was all Ruby could mutter. I'm sorry, I won't disappear again. He couldn't believe it, his dad was the fourth Hokage.
The man he looked up to and was so awesome. The same man that defeated the Nine Tails and saved Konoha almost 6 years ago. Who was a legend in battle and earned so many accolades. It felt like a dream. He finally learned his mom's name, and now he knew his dad was the most awesome Hokages of them all.
And why he wasn't here today. He, indeed, had given it all to protect him and the entire village.
He was a hero to everyone. Naruto didn't quite get everything else the Hokage said. There were some fantastic stories, but he didn't quite understand them outside the originator of chakra was somehow involved in all of this. And that this marking on his hand could link Naruto to him. That was amazing but also very frightening, as there was no telling what any of his power was doing. Not to mention there was his run-in with the nine-tailed fox. Naruto shivered. The Hokage didn't bring anything about him up, and he had to wonder why, but at the same time, maybe they were thinking of something. It could be, and they didn't want him to worry about it. It was like the old man not to tell him things if he believed he'd cause a fuss over them, or be loud. Or many reasons, now that Naruto thought about it. The old man didn't tell him a lot of things. What he did tell him was that he was going to have a dedicated guard to watch over him because of these last few incidents of him teleporting and Ruby coming to him. He called it a precaution, a word Naruto had no clue what it meant, and a safety measure, which Naruto understood. While there was no fear of Ruby, it was the worry that something else might cross over on accident, and they wanted to be prepared on the off chance. Like one of those creatures, he said that attacked them passed through. Which was fair. He didn't want to see another one of those ever again. They were scary. He was glad Makoto still came over after breakfast with the old man. She seemed in an excellent mood too. He wasn't sure what it was, but her soft smile seemed far more happy. He couldn't put it into words, but she felt different. And she wasn't just helping him with household stuff and his reading any longer. She was teaching different things Things that were much harder to grasp, but things she said he would need to learn if he wanted to become a shinobi.
So he tried really hard as he wanted to learn those.
Makoto also came with these books with the big red swirls all Konoha shinobi had on their backs. She said he wouldn't be able to do anything with these anytime soon, but someday he could learn from them when he was older. Someone more experienced could teach him about them than even her.
But more importantly, for the first time, he now had a picture of her and his dad together, and he could help but stare at how beautiful she was, her bright red hair. Dazzling smile with a mischievous glint in her eyes as she wrapped her arms around his father. And his father, calm, cool, and collected with a warm smile. His eyes held loving care within them despite them rolling at her, knowing the trouble he knew his mother was about to bring him into.
Hey, kid, Naruto jumped away from the picture he was admiring, his eyes wide at the sudden intruder in his house to see a man with silver hair wearing a porcelain mask that strangely looked like a dog. Crazy Silver. Crazy Silver, the man in the mask awkwardly looked at Naruto with a tilt of his head. You know, kid, out of all the nicknames I've ever received that paint me in a negative light, I like that one. His eyes curled into a smile behind his mask, bemused. It's got a nice ring to it, and it defines a signature feature I quite happen to like. Naruto didn't know how to respond to the man in the mask or his relaxed demeanor as he blanched at him. Okay, is something wrong? Am I glowing again? Oh no. You're fine, Naruto. The silver-haired man patted the young boy on the head in a comforting manner, his eyes shifting to the photo he was looking at before his eyes glimmered. They were something special. You know that. Glancing back at the photo, Naruto softly smiled as his gaze lingered on it. Then, his head briefly lowered, and his eyes glistened over. Yeah, I heard that, I wish. Naruto suddenly flinched as he felt a hand through his hair, making him glare at the silver-haired man. But as he did, he saw an odd sheen in his eye with a soft gaze as their eyes met. And his heart skipped a beat as he spoke. So do I, more than you know.
Cerulean shimmered. Did this man know his parents too? Was he close to them, like Makoto was to his mother? He wanted to know so much more, but that voice, it sounded so
hurt, pained. What had happened? Why was he? Come on, kid. His voice had regained its usual chipperness as he ruffled Naruto's hair once more and fouled his mood. Got a few things to show you. Your form in ninja was all off last time. You have a lot of work ahead of you if you want to become Hokage like your old man. After all, he was the best there was and the best there ever will be. Gah, Naruto yelled, feeling his spiky hair messed up, and fluffed it back to how he liked it before pointing a finger directly at the silver-haired man. That's it, you are so on. I'll show you who the best there is and the best there ever will be right now.
You better believe it, damn it, Ma, where'd you get such a vulgar word from? Kushina would be both upset and proud. Hey, Rubes, 1, 2, yes, look over there, where? Ow, bird, why? Yang screeched as she sharply brought her hand back from the colorful board they were playing with as a big black bird snapped at her hand. A loud shriek was the response from the raven as it fluffed its feathers, and Ruby looked back from the spot her sister had pointed to, really confused. You were caught cheating, Qrow called out from the kitchen, seemingly in front of the stove, with a frown. I was not, Yang defended, and a loud caw brought her attention to the black devil perched on the table she and Ruby were playing a board game on. Don't you sell me out. Do better, and don't get caught, Qrow murmured loud enough for Raven to catch it and caw in agreement, puffing up her chest. That's the lesson here, not a good one, but the lesson, just take a look at Ruby having moved her piece. Wait, what? Yang narrowed her eyes, and then they expanded. Ruby, have you been cheating me this entire time? No. Ruby gave her sister the most innocent look she could muster and made it seem like it was an accident. Was I miscounting again? Oh no. Raven squawked in laughter as Yang glared furiously, not sure if she should believe her sister or not. But that innocent and sweet look of hers was so believable. Gah, alright, you drew a 2 of that color, so you had to move 2 of that color. Not 3, Yang gnashed her teeth, believing her sister despite the smug-looking bird and the crimson shine coming from her eye as it looked over at Ruby and winked at her. Don't do that again, or I'm gonna catch it next time and get. Yang was cut off as the doorbell rang, startled her, and she looked over at the door of Qrow's apartment along with the raven. The bird seemed more curious than anything while Qrow frowned. Who could that be? Not expecting anyone. Feeling Raven land on his shoulder, his eyes narrowed as he approached the door. He suspected she might have been involved, which was why she was here. She was simply waiting as if she was going to make a move. And he was proven correct by opening the door. Dad? Yang shot up from her seated position, her lilac eyes shimmering in surprise. Ruby's eyes went as wide as possible as she bolted upright and ran straight for the door. Soon as she heard Yang say that, she wanted to see him. And it was him. Standing in front of Uncle Qrow. He had finally got up from the bed, he was here. Dad. Ruby clutched his right, and Yang followed suit and was glued to his hip. I missed you, so worried.
I know. Ty's eyes filled with tears, his skin paler than usual and figure trimmer and less built than it usually was, as he reached down, embracing his two daughters shakily. I am so sorry, I should have been better.
His eyes shifted upwards to Qrow, who sighed as he slicked his hand back through his hair. Qrow,
Save it and get in here. Can't blame ya, but something had to be done before things got worse. Qrow looked upon the sight, shaking his head as he looked at the scene with a forced smile. You might want to get in here before we continue to keep teaching bad lessons to your daughters. We are already teaching cheating, and I'm sure stealing is next on the docket.
A loud caw and nod was in confirmation as Raven fluffed her feathers in agreement, her crimson eyes gleaming at the sight.
What? Oh, right. Ty looked stunned momentarily at the sight of Raven in her transformed state before recalling precisely what happened. Yeah, guess I should realize it wouldn't be that easy. Yeah, it's not. Qrow crossed his arms and held a serious expression. I got to know you can take care of not only them, but yourself, Ty. With what's happening right now, you need to be apt and alert, as even I'm struggling to keep up.
Ruby's eyes are active and strange things are happening. We need all available help to understand what is happening here. He was so tired as he lay on his bed, having done so much today. She was so tired, lying on her bed for the first time in what felt like forever. He just wanted to sleep, she just wanted to sleep.
But as he lay on his bed, something bugged her. As he looked at the marking on his hand, was this the reason for his connection with Ruby?
Rubbing her eyes, did she wish to see her friend Naruto? And if so, was he okay right now? He wanted to know.
Naruto, Ruby, I hear you again. Ruby happily sat up on her bed, her silver eyes glowing excitedly. Are you doing okay? I'm doing fine, just got to learn about my dad. Naruto chirped, happy to hear her voice. You know that story I told you about? That's him. Oh, wait, how are you doing? Really, that is so cool. Your dad and my mom are so alike. Ruby buzzed with energy, gleaming at hearing Naruto got to hear who his dad was after telling him about his mom. I'm good, I'm back with dad. Wait, is he okay? Naruto's eyes grew in surprise, remembering something was wrong with Ruby's dad the last time they spoke. Yes, he came over and was talking to Uncle Qrow, and while he seemed really sad, Ruby started with energy before trailing off, noting her dad was still a little off, and was worried about that before smiling. But he's doing much better. He's eating again. He played games with us. He read to me tonight. He hasn't done that in forever. That sounds awesome, Ruby. Naruto grinned as he closed his eyes. I'm so glad to hear you are doing all right. You too, Ruby beamed, swearing she could feel and see Naruto smiling at her through their connection. I'm glad we can communicate when we aren't just sad. Right, Naruto nodded, his grin only doubling. That would only be a bummer. I think it is just wanting to talk to each other, and I think we have to share that desire or something, maybe. I don't know, it sounds complex. Also, has something to do with this mark on my hand making me special and maybe your eyes.
Really? Ruby tilted her head, looking curious, as she softly poked her eyes. Ow, bad idea. Did you just poke your eyes? No, haha, you just did.
Don't laugh at me. To make you feel better, I've been poking at the peeling skin at my marking, it hurts. Naruto mumbled as he looked at the sigil on his hand.
Better, Ruby mumbled before giggling. Little bit.
Well, I got some things to tell you if you want to hear them. Naruto grinned as he closed his eyes, stopping peeling the skin on his slightly glowing mark. Oh, maybe we should try to do this every night and talk to each other, ya know. That'd be cool. Ruby's eyes sparkled at the idea and feverishly nodded in agreement. Yes, I like that. Tell stories about our day. Promise. Yeah, I promise. Naruto nodded, his eyes glimmering. And if we reach out to each other in the middle of the day, we'll know something is wrong. Yeah, it all works. Genius.
Yes. Meanwhile, a cat mask person out his door and a raven perched outside her window listened to their conversations carefully, keeping a stern eye on the situation and ready to intervene if necessary. It was a serene, sunny morning, sparsely cloudy with a calm, cool breeze.
It was seemingly a perfect day for the village of Konoha. Kids were playing in the street, having the day off from school or the academy. Every person was bright and active, enjoying the tranquil start of the day.
unaware of what was about to be unleashed upon them. In front of the grocery store, hidden behind the fence on the other side, the voices of a young boy and girl giggled mischievously to themselves. "Are you ready? He's about to open. Yeah, let's do it."
The shop's door creaked up as it was unlocked from within, the store owner sighing contentedly as he looked upon the streets. Little was he aware a string had been pulled and a strange contraption activated over his head. Hearing the strange mechanism activate, he cranked his head upward only to see smoke drifting down and covering his store. Sparklers loudly cracked off all around him and whirled, drawing attention to little painted scribbles all over the front of the store, declaring he was mean. The man recoiled and dove into the street as many others looked on, awestruck at the elaborate display as a banner swung open and covered the store's logo. And on the logo, there was a painted orange swirl and red rose, proclaiming who had committed the vandalism.
The shop owner twitched at the sight, picking himself off the ground and growled, "Naruto."
Two sets of boisterous laughter resounded behind the fence, causing the man to swivel his attention in that direction only to see two children bolting from the scene. "You won't get away with this.
"You deserve it, ya jerk," Naruto yelled with fitful tears glistening in his eyes, having too much fun. "Yeah, ya meanie." Ruby furiously giggled, struggling to control her fits of laughter.
Seeing the man stomp in a fit of rage, fuming over the scene, pointing in the general direction. Several blurs raced past him and in his direction.
"Oh." Naruto blinked and grimaced, knowing it was some of the village ninjas coming for them, his brow furrowed in concentration. "Gotta go. Ruby, ya ready?" "Uh-huh." Ruby nodded, her body glowing silver as Naruto's expression relaxed, the glowing in his palm slowly fading.
A blinding silver light flashed, and Naruto found himself running alone on the streets. He put all his effort into keeping ahead, but he knew he couldn't outrun the shinobi and kunoichi of the village.
But he could trick him. With a swift turn around a corner, he took a hard turn, dove in, and pressed himself against the wall. He grinned as he pulled out his secret weapon. Everything was going to plan. In that instant, they each ran by, unsuspecting that he was still there. His plan had worked. "Hee, suckers," Naruto dropped the camo tarp he had carefully constructed to mirror a fence. "Our shinobi need more training if they fell for that," an amused voice purred, sending a shiver down Naruto's spine. But regardless, that was excellent planning. Letting out a shrill scream, jumping out into the open and swirling around, Naruto shouted as he pointed his finger at the top of the fence. "Arg, Neko-chan, don't sneak up on me like that." Brown eyes flickered contentedly behind her mask. Purple hair waved in the calm breeze. Neko comfortably sat upon the fence, gazing down at him with a chuckle. "You are aware it's my job to bring you back. You defaced his property." Naruto squinted and glared at Neko-chan defiantly. Oh, she thought she was gonna bring him back to face the music, huh? Well, he'd. But, Neko continued to humor her ward, eyes glinting playfully. "I enjoy a well-structured and executed plan to give just desserts. Have fun on the other side with your friend." Huh? Naruto nearly tripped over his feet in confusion, staring up at Neko, his head tilted. She was letting him go? As a golden light shimmered around his form, it flashed as the other shinobi had finally wisened up, recognizing that they had been tricked and doubled back. And now, they were stupefied at how Naruto had just up and vanished before their very eyes. Neko only scoffed as she leapt down to the street, drawing out a notebook while casually strolling toward the store to inform the man of the situation. His treatment of Naruto aside, which he had been reprimanded several times as abhorrent, a satisfied smirk crept behind her mask. Perhaps they couldn't do anything about that before, but with her investigation, it wasn't much, but charging him a 1% increase over the past 2 years was more than enough to charge the man. Lord Third wasn't lenient on his laws. Remnant, Ruby, age 6. Yang was not amused. Lilac eyes fumed, a crimson tint burning within as her gaze bored at the target of her ire. One possessed blonde, spiky-haired, 2 shining blue eyes, and an annoyingly bright smile. The other smiled just as brightly, her face contorted between concentration and genuine excitement while they laughed together, her eyes shimmering with a glowing silver light. "You jerks!" Yang roared, flailing her arms about. "You left me alone for a whole hour. I wanted to go too, jerks." Wincing and looking away dejectedly while Naruto sheepishly rubbed his head, Ruby shook her head. "I'm sorry. Yeah, didn't mean to leave ya behind." Naruto frowned before furrowing his brow. "Guess it only works for us?" "That's not fair," Yang lamented, crossing her arms and scowling. "I wanted to be involved. I wanted to see what it was." "Life isn't always fair, Yang." Yang shrunk at the voice, shivering as a hand combed through her hair. "It is best that you can't go along with them. There are too many things that could go wrong."
Yang huffed and turned away, her eyes gleaming resentfully at her mother. Why did Dad have to take that job? Why couldn't Uncle Qrow watch them instead? Was he busy?
Bird Lady. Naruto grinned, causing Ruby and Yang to squint at him, unsure where the name came from. Got a message for Ya. Keenly observing the boy as he rummaged through his small pouch and withdrew a scroll, Raven accepted the letter. From your village leader or your matron?
Makoto-sensei wanted me to give it to Ya. Naruto chirped, beaming at Yang's mother before scratching his cheek. Said to give it to one of Ya. Really wanted to make sure the message was passed on. Raven nodded, opening the scroll and scanning its content. Her gaze sharpened, glancing over at Naruto momentarily, and her lips quivered into a snarl. The message burst into flames and fell to the ground. As the kids recoiled at the sudden explosion, she stomped and crushed the smoldering scroll beneath her heel, her gaze falling upon Ruby. Ruby, send him back.
What? No. Naruto shouted, glaring at the strict woman. We had a plan for the. She will bring you back tonight. Raven's intense gaze sternly bored into the young boy, causing him to flinch before exhaling, allowing her voice to soften. She wanted you to come over for dinner tonight. Said something about being unable to make it over to assist you today. Oh, okay. Naruto's head snapped up, his eyes suddenly brimming excitedly. Yay! Ruby cried ecstatically. Oh, where will we go to eat? I want pizza. No, I want barbecue, Yang retorted, squinting at her sister. It's better than Mom's charco, ow.
Raven glowered at her daughter's attempted insinuation, her eyes flickering between fury and apprehension. She could cook. Cooking over an open fire was easy, she just couldn't bake. It didn't make sense to her.
Why did everything have to cook at different temperatures?
Just send him back. Raven's scowl deepened, focusing her intent on Ruby. If you want him here tonight, you can't burn yourself out. Last thing you want is to give yourself another nasty headache. Nodding acceptantly, the shimmering glow of Ruby's eyes began to fade. Waving to Naruto, she beamed brightly. See ya tonight.
You know it. Naruto grinned and flashed a dazzling smile, giving her a thumbs up while a golden light sparkled around his being. As a flash consumed the area, Raven grimly glanced at where the boy had disappeared from.
These next few days would be rough for him. Come on, as if you are being chased, you are in a hurry. Naruto whistled a tune only known to him while he strolled through the streets. This dry heart is screaming, this stubborn burning star is still far away.
He brimmed with an aura of excitement. Tonight was gonna be so fun, he was gonna eat over at Ruby's Inn.
Was this a date? Naruto's eyes widened as the thought crossed his mind, his positive energy shifting into an anxiety-ridden aura. Ah, what do I do? What do I do? He didn't know what to do. This had never happened before. Ah, shouldn't he dress up nicely? That's what all the other kids said to do on a date. I don't have nice clothes. Naruto grasped his temples in a blind panic, rapidly bouncing the sides of the street, his head on a swivel. Ah, there's gotta be a clothes store nearby. Need something nice. All my clothes are rough and ragged from training all the time. Do I have enough Ryo? I'm gonna need. What are you doing, idiot? Coming to a complete stop upon hearing a familiar voice, his eyes narrowed. Spinning around on the spot, Naruto accusingly pointed toward the person who addressed him. Baka, don't call me that. I call it how I see it. Sasuke glowered, his hands held in his pockets before his eyebrow raised. Why are you running around like a freak? You did something, didn't you? That was earlier. I'm in the clear now. Naruto snapped, seething at the Uchiha momentarily before scoffing. It's not like you could help me, anyways. You've never been on a date either.
Excuse me? Sasuke's face darkened as he lowered at Naruto. I think I would know more than you, idiot. Oh yeah, prove it, Naruto heatedly retorted, placing his hands on his hips and huffing.
Sasuke gaze pierced into Naruto. With a huff of his own, he accepted the challenge, lifting his hands out of his pockets and crossing them over his chest. HMPH, do you even have enough money to afford it? It's going to cost a lot. Baka, I know that, Naruto spat, matching Sasuke's pose, before his eyes shimmered dully. I just don't know if I have enough. Seeing Naruto's usual rambunctious attitude fade, Sasuke's scowl deepened. Carefully observing him, Sasuke scoffed and turned away, acting as if he didn't care. However, with a tilt of his head, he sharply glanced back. Come on, I'll show you what you need. You can use my discount.
Seriously? Naruto recoiled in surprise before he giddily jumped forward. That's awesome. Maybe you're not so bad. Yet you are the biggest idiot I know. Sasuke sneered, holding his nose up, and began to lead the way, leaving Naruto twitching in agitation.
Baka, we are lighting, straying from the thunder, Ruby hummed, vibrantly buzzing as she scavenged through the closet. Miracles of ancient wonder, this will be the day we waited for. Ruby, ya in there. The door opened to their room, Yang squinting, scanning the room before her eyes fell upon her sister looking through her clothes in the closet. What are ya doing in there? We're not going anywhere fancy.
But I want to look good for the date. Ruby frowned, squishing her face perturbed as she picked out a nice red blouse and skirt.
Huh, Yang blinked, tilting her head at her sister awkwardly. It's not a date, silly. He's just coming over for dinner. Big difference.
It's not? Ruby deflated, sulking into the closet. The clothes she picked out slumped to her side, dragging upon the floor. Oh.
A loud caw echoed from the window. Yang scowled and glared, seeing the giant bird had returned. Why did it always show up when her mother was here?
And why was it glaring at her and motioning its beak toward her sister? What did it want from her? Yang narrowed her gaze before seeing her sister's depressed state. Oh. Of course not. Yang patted Ruby on the back, grinning at her. Nah, a date is when he invites ya over, silly.
But, reaching into the closet after seeing her sister slump further, swiftly picking out an outfit for herself, Yang closed her eyes and beamed at her sister. Doesn't mean we can't dress up for it and turn it into one.
Really? A radiant smile crossed Ruby's face, and her eyes danced in delight. Sure can. Yang chirped before pushing his sister out of the room. Now go take a bath. Gotta look our best, right? Right. Ruby furiously nodded, bouncing forward into the bathroom, eliciting a giggle from Yang. Then she scoffed and sighed. Well, at least Ruby's happy. If only he could bring a cute boy with him, Sasuke scowled.
Glancing at his bandaged palm, flexing his hand several times, his eyes darkened. It was burning again. Sasuke, cracking his neck back up, Sasuke glowered at this turn of events as he walked through the flower shop door with Naruto trailing behind. What was she doing here? What are you doing here? Ino bubbly bounced on her heels after stopping to greet them. Oh, are you by chance here to buy me flowers? Silly, I don't need any. My family owns the shop. Repressing the building regret within and simply rolling his eyes instead, Sasuke coldly acknowledged her presence. No.
Nah, we're here 'cause I got to buy some flowers. Naruto's sunny disposition as he smiled brightly counteracted Sasuke's cold and glum response. I got a date tonight. You? Ino scrunched her face incredulously, causing Naruto's mood to sour. Sasuke groaned, knowing the explosion about to commence. And now he was between two of the loudest people he knew.
Oh, it must be the girl that hangs out with you all the time. Ino clapped her hands together with an illuminating smile. Lucky you, I've wanted to chat to her, but I can never run into her.
Ah, yeah, it's Ruby. Naruto's expression perked up once more, his cheeks flushing. Well, how'd I put it, she lives outside the village. Sasuke shrunk, recognizing the voice immediately. Why was he here?
Oh, she does, that's why. Ino whirled to greet the person entering her parents' shop. Thank you. Ah, hello, welcome to Yamanaka's flower shop. What can I do for you? It's all right, I'm not here to buy anything. He softly chuckled at her bashful response, well accustomed to the reaction. Onyx black eyes shimmered with amusement while he patted Sasuke's shoulder. I just noticed my brother hanging out with his best friend and thought I would bother them.
Itachi. Sasuke morosely slumped at his brother's arrival. Lighten up, little brother. Itachi mildly chuckled at his brother's response, shaking his head. So what have I caught the two of you out doing? Strange for you both to be here instead of training. Don't got time today. Naruto's loud voice caused Sasuke to wince and Itachi to gleam at him. Got a date today. Need to buy some flowers. Sasuke said I need to get some for one. Oh, is that so? Itachi mused, his attention shifting to his brother, who withdrew further into himself. Ah, so he's been taking note of when I take Izumi out, has he? No, Sasuke muttered, only causing Itachi's mirth to grow. Oh, I know better. Itachi gently poked his brother in the forehead, causing Sasuke to glower.
He knew he hated that. Young lady. Itachi turned his attention toward Ino, ruffling Naruto's hair, much to his agitation. I would like to order a dozen red roses for this little lovesick guy, I'll cover the cost.
Hey, don't call me little. Okay. I'll be right back. Ino numbly nodded, rushing to the back to get her mother's assistance for the order.
Itachi's levity only grew seeing the irritated and depressed statures of the two boys. Reaching into his pouch, he withdrew his wallet and a small amount of ryo, handing it to glowering Naruto. That should be more than enough.
Thank you. Naruto blinked, unsure how to respond to the kind gesture after being insulted. his conflicting emotions struggling with one another. No need to thank me. Just make sure to treat her right, okay? Itachi thinly smiled, waving at the two boys as he opened the door to exit. Oh, and Sasuke.
I would like it if you spent the rest of the day with Naruto before his date. Itachi glanced back, his expression somber before swiftly changing into a mild smirk. Keep him company, would you? He's more clueless than you.
Teme, of course, I'm sure. I know what I read, Qrow. Yeah, well, the last thing I want is anything getting dragged over here, got it? Raven ruffled under her brother's intense glare, she more than understood. They can't bring over anything with them besides themselves and what they have on them. Raven crossed her arms and lowered. I watched them attempt to take Yang this morning only for her to get left behind. You let them try and take her, Qrow hissed before his eyes snapped to the stairs, hearing thumping from above. Uncle Qrow. The enthused voices of Ruby and Yang filled the air as both ran down the stairs, glomping onto him. We missed you. Ruby enthusiastically smiled. Mom is no fun, Yang bemoaned, much to Raven's chagrin. Yeah, she doesn't have a funny bone, you know? Qrow gave a low chuckle as he separated from their embrace, ignoring her scoff. Lost it when we were young. Think it got beat out of her.
Whatever. Raven turned her back as a shimmering portal formed as she walked toward it, gazing sternly back at her brother. It's asinine to try and stop them. They were always going to try it, and we needed to know what would happen.
Still should have, Qrow remarked with a low growl.
You aren't fighting, are you? Ruby shrunk, faintly exhaling, closing her eyes momentarily. Raven shook her head. No, little Rose, we're not. We were only having a discussion.
Yeah, just a talk we needed to have. Qrow nodded in agreement. I'll fill you in later on what I've come across. Returning the nod, Raven stepped toward her portal, stopping as a voice called out to her, Mom, when I stay with you. Only when you are stronger. Raven mused, her eyes glistening as she gazed back at her daughter. Then, we shall see. While Yang sulked, a sliver of a grin graced Qrow's features. See? It isn't so hard.
Maybe for you, Raven glowered, stepping through the portal that vanished moments after she did.
Gotta work at it, but at least you're trying, Qrow muttered as he ran his hand through his hair. Say, Ruby, it's almost time, ain't it? Better bring him over before it gets too late. Dinner should be arriving any minute. How'd I look? Squinting at Naruto after he came out, Sasuke scoffed. He hardly noticed a change, if he was being honest. Nothing could hide the idiot he was. For you? Better than I expected. Sasuke smirked, taking a jab at Naruto. Still too bright. Ma, you don't know style. Naruto waved off Sasuke's insult, grinning like a fool as he looked at himself in the mirror. Orange just pops on me, ya know. If you say so. Sasuke rolled his eyes. Think it makes you more like a target. Bah. Naruto grunted, his goofy grin still plastered on his face. If I can get and fool the guys chasing me, other shinobi don't stand a chance. Sasuke glowered before furrowing his brow. It bothered him how effortlessly Naruto could escape his pursuers yet struggled so much more in class. Well, he was pretty good when it came to the practical classes. Noticing the time, Sasuke frowned. It was almost dinner time, he should be getting back home soon. Idiot, when are you heading out? Sasuke inquired, glancing back toward Naruto. Wait for her to call me. Naruto chirped, scratching the back of his head. Don't know when it's gonna happen, not until. Naruto, I'm ready. Naruto beamed, his infectious energy causing Sasuke to wince, seeing a glow emanate from Naruto's hand. See you, make sure to lock the door behind ya. Sasuke groaned, being expected to take care of Naruto's business for him, but he was interested in how it worked in reverse. He had seen Ruby pop into their world before, so this was how it. Grimacing, feeling his hand burning hotter than before, Sasuke glowered as he lifted his palm. Why was it? Sasuke. Naruto blinked, his eyes widening at the sight. Why are you glowing purple?
Sasuke's eyes sharply focused on his palm. An ominous glow pulsed from his bandaged hand. Was the mark he received 2 years ago acting up again? Why did it only react so strongly when he was in Naruto's presence?
I don't know. Sasuke shot daggers toward Naruto, watching as they both began to radiate, their auras mixing simultaneously. And in a brilliant flash, neither boy remained within the room.
Naruto. Ruby happily chirped as the light flashed before her. Are you ready for our? Why did I hit the ground so hard? Naruto, where the hell are we? Ruby's eyes shimmered widely. She recognized that voice, but that wasn't who she called. So why was he here with Naruto? Silver eyes vividly radiated, staring down a pair of confused ceruleans and irate onyx gaze as they looked up. That's it for today, I will stop here. I hope you all enjoyed this video. If you please consider subscribe and make sure to hit that like button, share with your friends, and don't forget to check out author of this story. Details in description.